Thank you.
Okay, on grant updates, Louise, did you,
I did. I've been back and forth with the folks at CMAC, and between vacations and stuff, we're still playing a little bit of phone tag. So I'll have an update next time.
okay. On line 17, it says session stand restroom should be concession. And on line 20, talking about the municipal reimbursement funds for the counter and toy chest. What?
I don't know. I think that's just a counter typo.
Yes, probably.
Okay, so let's delete that. And then also on 27, it says toy chest.
Okay.
So let's remove that. For the counter and benches. Does anyone else have anything?
No, I guess the question is, when we have open items from a previous meeting that are noted in the minutes, how do we ensure that they're followed up on?
Usually we go through the minutes and see what's left and have that prepared and ready for the meeting, Mike.
Okay.
These got approved a little late, so there wasn't time to go through them all.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve as presented and amended?
So moved.
Motion by Hausen,
Second,
second by Laskowitz. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. Is there anybody joining us in person or by Zoom?
Yes, ma'am. Nick Devlin.
Okay, Nick.
I was doing math on the two proposed, well, one's a project, one is just the sewer and water lateral that I've been working with Megan to bring to the farm. And by my best guesstimate, somewhere around $3 million in infrastructure that my wife and I will be putting in to the village between next spring and let's say next fall or winter. I saw on your agenda that you guys were going to be discussing SIP. Figure you can't get it if you don't ask. So I'm in here to just start the conversation today. I wasn't sure if this was the right place or if the village board was the right place to start the conversation. I did some math on 65 units at 400 grand a unit is 26 million. And at 500 grand a unit, it's 32.5 million. Somewhere in there will be what is the finished cost, average build out, low end being around 275, high end being whatever a 2,500 square foot fancy house costs on a quarter acre. I'm asking if the village would consider doing anything to help out, not so much the sewer and water laterals to our farm and all that stuff, that'll be about $500,000, but with the actual development project that I and my wife have come forward a couple times and spoken to the planning commission about. That's really all I came in here to say, is to ask, to see if there's any room for money to be proportioned to said project.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Is there anybody zooming in?
So we'll have to look for their hands raised since we're muting everyone.
Since what?
Since like Jill Weeby is muted, and so is Chris Schmaltz. So if they want to participate, they'll raise their hands. We just have to check and see if they have their hand raised.
Okay, they don't.
Okay. All right, Mike has a letter in here.
yeah, I'd like to comment on it if I can. Yeah, I noted this at the last finance committee meeting, and we're beginning our budget planning process for 2026, I guess, with this meeting today. I looked back at my notes last year from the planning process, and again, I want to reiterate that we had a painful budget planning process really over the last 2 years, where at the end of the day, our taxpayers saw substantial increases in their property taxes. Last year was an 11% increase. And I was surprised, as I mentioned in our last meeting, that in January, the auditor reported a $557,000 surplus at the end of the year. And we had raised taxes 11%, I recall, to drive up revenue by about $400,000 based on the advice of our auditor, our expert from Baird, and the work they did, believing that it was necessary in order to make sure that we were whole as an entity, that the village would not have a deficit. We were off. Vlad's explained to me that the favorable variance came in two areas. About $425,000 from the TID. I don't know if it was TID 1 or TID 2 or both. And about $400,000 of underspending, really good work by our department directors to make sure that they were spending their budget dollars prudently. I think the challenge is that we work on this budget all the way through October and even November. So with only 2 months left in the calendar year, the fiscal year, we weren't able to forecast that year-end surplus. And I think we have to find a way to get better at that. It's really not acceptable to be off by 22% of the tax levy of $2.6 million to our citizens. So we have to find a way to do a better job of forecasting and understanding and holding our experts accountable. Adam from Baird last year told us the reason that we needed to increase the taxes and the tax rate was because we were going to have a negative from the TIPs. And in fact, we had a positive, which is very hard to understand. So I'm not getting why we don't have a little better control over forecasting of expenses and revenue for the TID and understanding the net. Clearly, we should have a little better forecasting process for our departments. And I think we've had some challenges with a lot of headcount turnover. I like what I saw in the budget reporting that we're going to use to look at the budget for 26 that Vlad's put together, but I still think there are some improvements that we can make from this point. But this is a big deal. We really took our citizens through a knothole last year. They're expecting better of us. And most people don't realize that we ended the year with such a significant surplus after that discussion we had. And I think it's important that they understand it and that we get better at this going forward.
Can I add something?
Please.
I'm just gonna share the screen.
No, Vlad, sorry. It's comments and correspondence. It's not an agenda item. Maybe we can address that someplace else when we're discussing the budget, but not here.
Okay.
Okay, item 6A, update on sales tax and fee schedule. Vlad?
This agenda item is from last meeting. But reported, we discovered some not the best way of reporting our tax, sales tax. So not every item on the fee schedule is applicable to sales tax. So the only thing that applicable to sales tax are reservations, rentals, and concessions. So the recommendation is to finance committee either keep everything as is and change the tax exempt requirements, increase or increase prices. Still have keep the tax like added on and back the tax out.
So Vlad, are we able to tell by looking at this list which of these items are taxable versus which are not taxable?
And not really, only rentals, concessions, and
it's not under building expense, Mike, it's not under accessory structures, commercial, miscellaneous, I'm scrolling.
Page 16.
So under facility rentals.
First, like rentals fees, those are taxable. Page 75. I have pages that-
Oh, right, okay. So those include sales tax now.
Yeah,
And if they're not, if they're a nonprofit, they would have to show us, documentation that they don't pay tax.
so for right now, we're back in the tax, the sales tax out,
Yeah.
and we can continue to do so. There's no violations, no discrepancies in that. The only thing is, for non-for-profit. So they're pretty much paying the same price.
They actually pay a little more than an individual because, if it's $30 and then we're back in the tax out for the individual, but the nonprofit pays 30, the nonprofit is actually paying a little more, and that wasn't the intent. The intent was that nonprofits actually have a reduced rate, they don't pay as much, as the individual that's renting it. So first thing is, do we add that sales tax on or deduct it, like Thad said? And then the second thing is, how do you handle it for nonprofits?
I think the fee should be the fee. And then just like going into any business, then it's added on.
I agree. I think backing it out is such a. And that way, if you get a nonprofit in there, they just pay the $300 flat rate. You just don't put the tax on at all. You just hit the tax exempt button when you're ringing them up instead of trying to give them some sort of refund or give them a different price. You don't have to worry about their all.
How do we report to the state? Isn't there that to consider? That we have to report sales tax?
So
Yeah.
technically, you do need to keep tax exempt certificates for non-for-profit.
Yep.
As of right now, they,
We don't report sales tax because it's included in the fee.
yeah, so we're making it sales tax out. And spreadsheets set up that way, pretty much like the system set up that way. And which most of the municipalities do, they have a flat fee on their rentals, let's say $100, and everyone's backing the sales tax out. We need to have description written out on every single rental application, how we're gonna handle the non-for-profit. So if they're paying this $100, so they need to submit tax exempt certificate. That's one. The second thing, there should be some kind of sort of benefit to them as a non-for-profit. So for $100, they may be gonna have unlimited rentals, which that's what's going on right now.
So Vlad, I guess I'm not understanding. You have a published fee, and for rentals, we say plus tax. And if you're a non-profit and you have a tax exempt certificate, you don't pay the tax. And we have to have that exemption certificate so that we can report to the state and federal government.
So right now, it doesn't say plus tax.
Right now, everybody
now,
plays
it's
the
tax
same
included.
amount. We don't give a discount to.
But I don't think we need to, we just need to add taxes to our rental sales.
That's
You
one way.
can-
You can
yeah.
do that, but there's consequences in financial logistics because not everyone is paying. They're just gonna keep sending the whole pay, and we won't forget to pay taxes. So then-
Oh, these are people that I historically do it every month or every year or something like that.
And then what you're gonna send the check back, and they will say, I never received a check, but I sent it once.
So we don't invoice them, they just send us checks.
Correct. So
Well, we can possibly then, I don't know how many there are, I'm not asking staff for additional work, but maybe then just, we send a letter to those reoccurring people that have been doing it for a while to notify them. And, but don't they still have to fill out a form every year?
Right, they have to fill out an application, and that's one thing the Parks Committee is gonna have to look at is revising that application. We found some things that aren't right, or need revising, I should say. So when they fill out the form, we can let them know it's now plus tax.
Okay, so instead of a letter, perfect, because I thought everybody had to still fill out a form. Perfect.
They're supposed to be.
It'd be important to send an invoice, I think, too, right, from our records and to, you know, have some type of proof of payment or something like that, that details this, so we can submit that invoice when we, you know, submit any tax records, because otherwise it's just sort of.
They're usually.
You don't have to submit an invoice for tax, for sales tax
Well,
records.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of the challenges we have is a lot of the reservations come where somebody comes into the counter, they have their money, hey, I wanna reserve this, and they're right there filling it out, paying for it, cash or check.
Okay.
So there's, a lot of
Makes
times
sense.
there's not an invoice involved.
But at
Most
least
of the
you
time
have
there's no
that.
invoice.
But you have the paper.
But there's a
thing.
receipt,
Yeah, okay.
there's a
Well,
receipt.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we send notification.
Well, I want to ask another question here before we approve this. How have these changed from last year? Are there any new, I mean, we would be approving any increases or decreases that you listed for any of these items. Do we know the changes from last year?
As far as what goes, like,
Any of them?
well, the rental fees,
Zoning and development, contractor fees, I'm just
Well-
wondering did we increase any of these in fees? Did we decrease some?
Not, we're talking
Or are they all the
about,
same?
Plan Commission is talking about upping the sign permit and the sandwich board sign permit, because they tend to take a ridiculous amount of time for staff. There was nothing else, that came from Plan Commission on changing any of the fees. The building inspector does what he needs to do.
the Marina Committee recommended a change. Other than that, it hasn't gone to the board yet, Mike, so there's not any changes.
So if it was Parks or Marina, they would submit their changes for review and approval by the board, then it would come back to this list.
Once it'd be submitted to the board would pass a resolution adopting that new fee,
Okay,
and then, staff publishes. a
Okay,
notice.
thank you.
Yep.
You would go to plan first.
Or planning commission fees.
thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so, I think this is right, but I will make a motion that for facility rentals and park and special rentals, we'll send a notification to those individuals that, have done this in the past, that the rental fees, do not include sales tax. And that the sales tax will be noted separately. Right? So I'm giving an example. Waterfront Park is $1,900. So the rental fee is $1,900 plus the rental fee.
Tax.
Plus the
Sorry,
rental
plus the
sales
sales
tax.
tax, beg your pardon. Correct. That's how I would read that notification.
How about if we, Louise, if you don't mind, just breaking the motion down to, the motion is to, charge tax in addition to the number stated in the fee schedule.
Okay.
Except for nonprofit organizations.
Okay, and send that notification to those individuals, organizations, whomever, who we know, typically, have, to your point, have just would assume and send it in, and because it's what they've done every year, or every month, or whatever, right? We send those people whose information we have a notification about that.
Or what Julie said, that we don't really have to do that, because they still have to fill out the form, they
Okay.
would be notified at the time of the.
Okay, they don't just send something in. Okay.
Motion by Howson. Second by White, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, and then the second part of that was the ice rink concessions and the marina concessions. Currently, they include the sales tax in their, the price of the product that they're selling. So unless there's a change, if the committee feels that should be changed, we can discuss that. Otherwise, that would stay the way it is.
I make a motion that we change that also. Motion by Berta. Sorry, guys.
for that one? Is that calculated differently?
No.
Like the concession stands? Like if somebody's like soda is $2 and you go up and a kid gives them $2, is it $2 plus tax now if we do that?
Yeah, I think that's what it sounds like it would be.
I mean, it's one thing to put stuff on a credit card at a marina slip rental, or you're filling out a form to rent a gazebo or anything like that, but for concessions, are they not allowed to charge a round number?
Well,
That's the only one I hesitate with. Like a candy bar is $1. You can tell the kid, no, it's $1 or 6 cents.
They were charged tax.
Yeah.
I just wonder how that would work. Like, how does the concession people report it?
I know, but it's like any other retail business. You use a cash register.
Well, they usually just use a cash box.
At the baseball game.
Right.
Or do they raise the price of the concession to include that?
The baseball games are different because that's the base, that's not. But if you're talking about like at the ice rink or something like that, when they have a register, usually they just pressure.
So it's right now they're taking the sales tax out. Would you open?
I'd like it for all the fees, but for the concessions, I feel like that's really.
It's usually pay for volunteers.
Right,
They're
it's
all
much high school
Yeah.
kids work at.
Well, but if we buy them a cash register, they can use a cash register that would do. And I think.
So maybe they reduce their prices so that $1 will cover what the kid thinks it's.
Well, you know, why would they make less money?
I think what she's thinking about is a kid comes with $1, kid comes with $2. They don't come with $2.16 or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
I know, but that's,
And then it's on the person collecting to calculate the tax if you don't have the.
To make the change, I've never seen it.
I understand the point that you're making.
I'm trying
But
to
I
think of
think
like a clever
We
way
get a
around
cash
this.
register and everything's rung up, so it's not a cash box and you know exactly what you're selling.
But will the bays do that?
Well, it's not the
Bays
base,
is
it's
not
the
us.
ice rink.
That's not us.
Oh, so it's just at the ice rink?
Yeah,
Marina.
Yes.
Well, the marina can do it, those adults in there.
And you have credit cards do that.
Yeah.
I don't think we should,
I know, I hate to do two different things.
I would hate to simplify or
Hopefully they
belittle
just
the
look
people that
around
are
the numbers.
working at the concessions, thinking that they couldn't operate a cash register and then we also have a receipt on exactly the money that should be in there, not just a box of money at the end of the day.
Right. True. All right, I'll have to be creative. Okay, sorry, Carrie.
So the motion was for the marina and the ice rink, it is the concession plus tax.
So moved.
Motion by Berto, second by Laskowitz. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you had already set motion.
Motion carried. 6B, update on general fund quarter 2, 2025 year actual to budget.
So Vlad, before you get started here, just a couple things. This is really helpful. And I like how you have the percentages. What I would ask we think about in the future is a kind of a summary, where we open up with a summary, which includes the variance. So basically, we calendarize the budget by 12, and we just look at that percentage by 6 months, by 7 months, by 8 months, so that we can see how we're doing. And we also should have a summary of all of the expenses, which you kind of do in the inverse at the end of this thing, where you call it, how did you do this? You basically said net revenue over expenditures. Well, we know our revenue is fixed at the tax rate, right, or at what was taxed. So what might simplify this is what's the spending variance, right? What are our expenses versus the planned expenses for 6 months, for 7 months, for 8 months? I think that helps us going forward as we try to get better at forecasting expenses.
I don't know that Vlad can do all of that because he would probably not be privy without talking to all the department heads on what they plan on spending, yet this fall or that, the next 6 months, if there's something that they're holding back on or that there's something that they don't normally purchase. until later in the year, or it's a seasonal thing.
So we don't hold our department directors responsible for monthly forecasting.
I'm just saying that I don't think Vlad can do what you're asking. That would have to come from the department
I
head.
agree. So typically you have a process where the department head goes in every month, they forecast the next month's and follow the remainder of the year's spending by month. They submit it to Vlad, he updates his report. You build
I don't-
spreadsheets for
no, I
it,
don't
it's
believe
quite
it.
easy.
I don't believe that they do that. I don't believe that they.
Well, most
ever do.
departments, I mean, that's a very common practice.
It is, Mike, but not when you have one finance person and a small staff,
Last
and
year,
they're doing multiple people's jobs. So what they do is in the beginning, they predict the year ahead, what it's gonna cost. They know sometimes a lot of the expenses or revenues are upfront, because they know in January, maybe all your revenues are coming in. A lot of times they can't forecast, they know what it's gonna be for the year, but they can't tell you what month it is, because it's really hard to get contractors up here. You may think you're gonna have a contractor come in May, he may not show up till October.
But that's all the more reason why you need the forecast. And maybe it's quarterly rather than monthly. Go ahead, Vlad, I'm sorry.
I do apologize to interrupt, but.
No
I just
problem.
wanna, kind of like explain what you're probably talking about. You're talking about cash flow forecast for each month.
I'm talking about expense forecasting.
Pretty much.
Because we don't, our revenue is pretty much fixed. So we only need to do one half of what typically would be done in forecasting, and that's looking at the expenses. And I understand all the complexities people have described, then maybe we do it quarterly, 4 times a year. But remember, the issue we had last year is our department heads came in over 20% off what the budget was to the good, and we didn't know what was happening. So we raised taxes. That's not good.
I understand, Mike, the point that you're making. And, but because we did not spend it then last year, and it goes into the undesignated balance fund, and we can use those funds to offset the budget this year.
I get that, but philosophically, I don't believe that that is a good way to manage finances. It's not
I'm not
generally
saying that we
accepted
can't try to get
accounting
closer.
practices. I mean, that's my issue. I'm not looking for perfection. If we were $100,000 variance, I would get it. But we were off by way too much last year.
But Mike, did you notice that 2024 budget, the general fund budget was $182,000, like negative?
Which year, there were 2 years in a row that were negative. I thought they were 22 and 23.
I'm talking about 24 for right now. So knowing that it was $182,000 negative when it was initially set up, and then $440,000 were injected from TID, and we came out like five.
But, okay, look, I get it. But our expert from Beard told us we were gonna see a negative on the TID. That's why we increased the taxes. He said we would see a negative impact from the TID, and we had that whole discussion about operational budget versus macro budgeting, and we were wrong. We were wrong in many categories. All I'm saying is that we have 2 areas, I believe, looking at the finances very closely for the last 2 years, we need to get much better at. 1 is forecasting our expenses. 2 is understanding the budget impact of the TIEs. I don't think we're getting either of those, and as a result, we're getting surprised, and we're really making our taxpayers angry, because the result has been we put large tax increases in place 2 years in a row.
Like, could you maybe take a moment to explain that there was not a surplus and that we actually ended up with a deficit?
That's what I was trying to explain. Like, knowing that when 2024 budget was constructed, the general fund portion was actually $182,000 in negative. So what that means, the revenue were lower than expenses. Expenses were higher than revenue. So then initially they projected $290,000 as an injection from TID. So just like going into numbers, knowing that $182,000 and 500, let's say, were negative initial, then this plan was just to transfer $290,000 from TIF.
So what you said in the minutes was the variance was related to a surplus, 440,000 coming from the TID, with 150,000 being additional transfer due to increased increment of the TID, and $400,000 reflecting good budget management by the department heads. But, you know, I'm not gonna debate this with you. I expect that you understand it better than I do, but those are big variances for a relatively small number. Those are large percentages of our budget that we missed, one way or the other. That's my point.
Right,
And-
and we have a policy now to address the TID into our final budget numbers.
So as we work on our budget, will we see a forecast of the TID impact before we get to November?
Yes, you'll see it once those numbers become available, or
Which
once
is
they
when?
can be forecast.
Middle of August.
All right, that's good.
If they're available.
And will we have a better forecast from our department supervisors for the full year? Will we know, because it looks like they're gonna run under again unless there's something out there that we're not seeing.
Well, one thing, just let me interject, when we were working on the 2024 budget, we did receive, projections for year-end 23.
23?
Yeah, because we were working on 24,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
So
Okay.
we got year-end 22, we got year-to-date through 6/30/23, we got projections for 23, we got the budget for 23. And then, so we could look at where are we year-to-date, where we projected to be for 23, what's the budget, and what the budget was for 24. In 2023, we did that.
I also think that we had projections for this year. The issue was those projections were higher than what the actual numbers were.
I don't know, but in 2023, we did it somehow.
So will we get Q3 numbers like this before we finalize the budget? Yes, we get it for 26. And then at that time, do the department heads also meet with Flat then and be like, hey, this is what our numbers were Q3. For Q4, all looks good. We're expected to be the same.
We will
or
have,
up or
that
down.
will be in the documentation, it always is every year on what they project end of year to be for
Okay.
those last 3
So
months.
kind of what he's.
Well, no, because we got it at the end of June in 2023. We didn't have to wait until third quarter.
No, but I mean, if a department head gets to Q3, they,
Yeah, Q3 is closer. Yeah.
right,
That's
look at where they're at and say, okay, there's only 1 quarter left in the year. I think it takes them 15 minutes to run through the numbers and be like, you know what? We're looking good, you guys. I think we're gonna hit maybe 20,000 under budget or whatever it is. Make like a real broad prediction on how they're gonna end the year.
But if you knew at the end of June that things weren't looking too good, you got 6 months to figure it out. If you don't know till the end of October or September.
Right, but I'm saying
You got
for
3
planning
months.
the following year's budget, it's nice for the department heads to give you a
Understand.
heads up of
Right.
where they think they're gonna end the year. I think just like even a one-line statement of, hey, this is where we're at right now. We're at 75% of our budget or wherever it is. I know it's different because the tourist season is so fluctuating,
you're-
but,
You're correct, Bridget. That's the time to do it is at the end of the third.
right.
Because by that time, you're gonna know, hey, we weren't able to get the engineer to do this. He doesn't think he's gonna be able to do it by the end of the year. We're not gonna be using X amount of dollars.
Right.
We're gonna have to put that in next year. And that's kind of what's happening with the budget to the best of staff's ability is they're like, hey, we had this budgeted in here for this engineering project or this equipment or construction. It looks like it's not gonna happen. Therefore, it's not gonna be moved into the following year, so is what happens. They are keeping track of that as they go. I mean, it's really those big unexpected items which impact it, because we are a smaller budget, those are the ones that are more obvious, right?
Right.
We were gonna build a shed and the contractor said, now he can't get there till February or something. those are those big numbers that end up impacting the budget. You
Right.
don't know until more towards the end of the year when they're for sure telling you, I'm not gonna make it.
But will we kind of know those things before we sign off on next year's budget?
We hope so.
Okay.
Because that's the end of the third, and it takes a while to get those numbers out.
Mhm.
But staff at least knows from talking with even if you don't have that number, they're gonna know from talking with their contractors whether that realistically is gonna happen when it was supposed to happen.
Right. I think that's super helpful. Even if they just, I mean, it's one thing to go through and look at all the line items, but for them to just be like, one or two sentences, hey, this is, we're hitting every mark for the year, everything looks good for us. Or some department is like, hey, I think we're gonna go 20,000 over because somebody's able to do a project sooner. You know, just so we know without having to like fine line every little,
It'll never be perfect.
no,
But we
a
need it to
general
get
prediction
tighter.
is awesome.
So we can do a projection.
In the unrealized TID funds, we don't know that number until August. And do those funds need to be assigned or allocated this year before the end of the year? Because that makes it difficult if we don't know the number to, especially if it's, turns out
We get it
last
from the
year.
state, so we don't have a choice. You got it.
Right, but then those funds have to be applied this year.
They would be included in the budget we're working on for next year.
Right. Next year.
So if you know the impact, when we get those numbers, and we do wait to verify some of them, so sometimes it does take a while. But yeah, those numbers then are rolled into the budget that we're working on. In the past, what the village has done is they've done the operational budget, and then later, when all those numbers are finalized, they bring it back to see the impact on their budget. Beginning this year, because we changed the policy, those will be before the budget is adopted.
Okay, so 290 is an estimate right now, right? Because we have like transfers from TID.
Yeah, that was initially set up like a long time ago, so
The 290 was?
Yeah, that number is gonna get increased.
Right,
So
quite a bit potentially based on last year. So that's like $100,000+ right there. It's potentially
So that's
a lot of big variables.
Yeah, I get that, so that's kind of where my TID question is. Why do we keep track of the TID on a monthly basis? Do we have a model that tracks that monthly, so we know the impact on the budget? Or are we just waiting until the end of the year when we get a number from somebody else and popping it in?
There's,
What model are you talking about?
I'm asking if there is a model.
no, there's not a model.
So
It's somebody sitting there calculating it the best they can.
Starts with the assessor. Assessor submits to the state. Estimate from the state.
usually the estimates come out like
Yeah.
So
So
wait.
final ones don't come out until November, we didn't wait for the final ones. So, August.
for the next finance committee meeting, we're going to have like 75 to 80% numbers.
Even up to TID?
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent. That'll be very helpful.
So I know we want to keep it moving along. A lot of this stuff I know was discussed earlier, so maybe if there's something else, we can go back and find that, some of those questions. But let's try and stay on topic with what's right here if we
Well,
can.
this is the topic.
I know, but
This is the topic. If you talk
no,
to
the
anyone in
topic was
Sister
the
Bay,
update on the account to budget. I just
and
want to
this
make
is,
sure we're
that's what we're
staying on.
talking about, the budget. And we're trying to make sure that we understand what happened to us in the past. We learned from it. We make corrections and we do a better job of planning going forward. That's what our village residents are demanding of us.
Okay, so and I understand that, Mike, and we do want to do that when we're looking at overall how we're gonna manage it. I know with this particular one, it was agendized to just be for Q2, so I guess if there's other questions on Q2, maybe we can address those. I just want to keep things going and not get too far off track, because we could have separate agenda items for those too, if people want to talk about those.
So one thing that just kind of, there's a couple things that stood out for me were other financing sources. We budgeted,
What page are you on, please?
I'm looking at update on general fund Q2.
It's on page one at the bottom.
It's the recap that Brad sent us,
18.
page 18. So we collected about 57,000 on a budget of 403,000. So if this is a timing issue, okay, but I just wondered what that was about.
I have drawn copies, my pages like.
Oh, here, I'll show it to you. This is the one that you sent to us, item 6B on the agenda. Okay, so these are revenues. And you had said that, so far for other financing sources and revenues, we collected 57,000 and the budget was 403. This is the recap you gave to us to review. Sure.
I think that correlates to a document someplace else in that packet, but I can't remember which one.
Okay, it just was big, so that's why I just want to understand it.
What is other sources?
That, and on that other page, it
Lists
lists
it, okay.
what they all
I was
are.
gonna say, I'm trying to find it.
It's not in the CIP, are you in the CIP wording?
Yeah, I think that's it.
It's not in there.
It's in the email from Vlad.
Yeah, it's in the regular budget. Not the stuff. While he's doing that, I was a little surprised we're under the legal budget, but that could be just invoicing from Tinker. Honestly, it's like, whoa,
I guess there's more.
hey, we might go over.
Well, we do a lot of that in-house now, so, you know,
With the League of Municipalities.
no, I do a lot of it. So I write the contracts, I write the development agreements, I write the leases, I send them, once they're all done, I send them to Randy for final review.
Okay.
We used to also, I know staff used to turn to Randy for a lot of stuff, and since I've been here, I've been able to answer a lot of those questions.
Okay.
So it has saved quite a bit over the last couple of years on the legal side.
And this recap is comparing it to the annual budget, because we flatlined the budget basically, it's just whatever the budget is divided by 12, so it's not, right, that's what our process is.
I can answer the question.
Sure, go ahead.
So what happened, the transfer from TIF was not transferred yet, so if you go, when I go back to, report from financial system, $190,000 were not transferred yet into general fund as payback from TIF. Then, we only transferred 50% for, pilot for Marina, and pilot for wood. And that's why it's just such a significant difference.
So
So then,
290 plus, I'm just gonna say 60 is 350, and right now the budget's 403. Right?
yeah, tonight we're not transferring, it's probably gonna change last year, it changed. This might be even more, and get 50% transferring from.
Oh, that's okay, I know how
They
that,
just messed
yeah,
up.
if you look at it, yeah, depending on which program you look at, don't apologize, you're good. Okay, thank
So
you.
other income could be close to 500,000.
Could be over that.
Could be over 500.
Vlad, can you explain to me your net revenue over expenditures percentage of 520%? Help me understand how you're calculating that.
What page is
Net
that
revenue
on?
would be, I'm on page 22 of the packet. So the 1.4 million is 6 months of our tax revenue, correct? Plus other tax revenue plus other revenue. Half of our budget is the 1.4 million, correct?
So the actual budget, 3,077,383,000 pesos. Then we minus the whole, for the two expenses, which is 1,401,656 34.
Okay, this is what I'm not getting. I mean, it says net revenue over expenditures. What's the net revenue number that you're using?
Yeah, let me check it.
So I'm looking at what, half a year, what's the revenue number and what's the total expense? So the revenue is, that's the full year. That's the,
Actual, year-to-date actual.
so
That's the budget.
for the half year or the full year?
That's the budget for the full year,
Okay, so how could this be half year?
because we already pretty much
Collected all of it.
collected.
All right, so,
property
okay,
tax.
so you're using, this is revenue collected and this is your total expenses.
And that's the total expenses.
So if we just annualize the first 6 months, we're running at a run rate of expenses of 2.8 million for the full year, correct?
And some of the expenses, they prepare.
Or lumpy, or okay, or maybe lower than,
Could be lower,
okay,
could be higher.
all right, so this is expenses. I got it, thank you.
And that's a very important number, it's negative 269,138. What that means, in order to balance the general fund budget, we run at negative, so $270,000 almost. We're pretty much bought up from our reserves to balance that. And last year it was $182,000 borrowed from reserves. That's why saying that, was there really like $500,000 surplus? Yes and no.
That's a new.
All right, we're gonna have to talk about that, I won't even start on that now.
Anybody else have any other questions on those sheets through page 22?
The parks is way under budget, but is that a staff thing?
Part of it's staff and then part of it is not being able to get the contractors out there, so
Okay.
like the electrical, there's just some things they always have to wait on. And then some of their stuff ends up being, seasonal as well. We're gonna see more expenses during certain seasons.
Yeah, but the one that I'm looking at for the parks is 74,000, pretty much just wages. Some of it's ground repair and maintenance, but most of it's wages. Some of it's contracted services, but most of it's wages. So, let's see here.
What page that's?
I'm looking at page 38 in the budget. So, chances are with that run rate, it's going to be under.
Yeah, so wages, so you're gonna see more of your parks wages actually in the second half of the year.
Okay.
Because that's when you have your part-time guys that are working, that's when they're doing stuff for Fall Fest and getting
Okay.
the things that accumulate more overtime.
Okay.
And the fact that they are down one person as well.
Okay, so Louise jumped to page 38. Is
I
there,
didn't, I just was looking at the recap you did. That's all, I just was looking at the old.
so is there anything starting on page 23, the revenues with comparison to budget for the first 6 months ending June 30th?
Lad, is it unique that we have, well, we would have had, I'm assuming you're recognizing property taxes as fully paid or within, what do we talk about, $10,000 or something like that? What have we not collected in property taxes? It's a fairly small percentage number, correct?
I mean, we're still waiting for check for like close to $900,000 plus. But
900,000,
yeah,
for the people paying 2 times a year.
Second
Yeah.
half.
But everything recorded as receivables.
Okay,
To audit approach.
okay,
Even though we're still waiting for the check, going to receive the check no matter what.
So the question is, that revenue number, we recognize roughly 50% of the full, more than 50% of the full year revenue. You're telling me we're cash negative. I'm not understanding why we had to go to the cash reserve if we're underspent on expenses and we've recognized our revenue. Is it just a cash flow thing?
Not necessarily, the way it was budgeted last year. The expenses actually exceeded revenues. That's why it cash negative by 270,000.
You mean, why is it written in that we've already period actual, year-to-date actual, why it shows 2.6 million when we don't have that in our hands yet?
No, he's telling me that on a different line. What page is that on in the packet, Vlad? You don't know what page that was?
I'm scrolling down, just cannot jump.
In the packet, it's page 42. The bottom line says net revenue over expenditures. 269, 148.
Yeah, page 42 in the packet. We've recognized 1.4 in period revenue or taxes. And we're saying that we are negative. And I have to look at the details of what's driving this negative, but basically it's negative cash flow. So we pulled that from reserves. Is that what you're saying?
So 269, 148.07, that's the budgeted
That's
amount.
the budget.
Yeah, that's the budget.
Well, what's the actual?
The actual right now is 1.4
Positive?
positive, yeah.
Is it though, if we didn't get that $900,000 payment yet?
Yeah, the property taxes were recorded as receivables.
Right, but do
So-
we actually have them yet?
We
I
do
mean, I
not
know
have
why,
any-
I know what you're saying, but is there a reason that you record them as received even before we've received them? Because I would think, you know, you have as the budgeted number, okay, we're going to get 2.6 million. We've already received 1.5 million. I would think that would be the year-to-date actual so far.
Yes
Instead of
and
the,
no, I guess the audit team, they like,
they like to see.
right now
what's
push
going
it toward like gas fees regulations that changing as far as like recording taxes. So, and I even asked that question, we haven't collected, like to collect no matter what, it's 100% guaranteed. So then record it.
So it's like an accrual.
Yeah. So that's why it's recorded as receivables. So technically, we're assuming that we're going to receive them 100%, even though we did not receive it yet.
So look, we have to get better at understanding this because it is not making sense. On the total fund expenditures line, we're at 1.6. We got a full year budget of 4 million. If I remember that correctly, about 3 million of it is property taxes. The other million-ish, I'm rounding these numbers, comes from other sources of income, right? That's how we got to the 4. What I'm not getting is we're recognizing 1.4 in the period, okay? Year to date, we're saying in the period 6 months, we've recognized 1.4, and we're saying we're reporting a negative $260,000, which is negative. When on the transfer to, I mean, we transferred out of our revenue $560,000 to the capital fund. And now so we did that before we made sure we weren't negative on the reserve. I don't get that. We can take it offline. It's not making sense to me.
Mike.
Yeah,
I would appreciate that, Mike, so we don't get
I understand.
into the weeds here.
Well, this is
because-
not the weeds, Denise. These are
Yes,
big
because-
numbers.
Because it will change with the third quarter. It's not something that alarms me at all.
Well, I think maybe it should
Maybe-
based on the last 2 years of what's happened to our property tax bills.
Okay. Let's get something straight here. what happened last year is because of the TID. It is not because the finance committee or the board did anything wrong. It happened because of the TID. And I would like us to be able to move through this. I anticipate that with the packet that we have today, this is a 4 or 5 hour meeting if we stick to task. I don't want to see it go past that. I would like to not see it go past that. So were there any other comments or questions pertaining to page 22 through 42 on kind of where we are for the first 6 months and what our budget was?
On a top line standpoint, again, I'm looking at top line and I'll scroll to the zoning.
Mhm.
We're about 115%, so we're 15% over budget now. And that's why, I mean, I think that
Tourism zone charges,
it says zoning. Not tourism zone, so hold on, let me find the page.
42.
No,
Does-
yeah, tourism zone charges, I think, 65, yeah. And, budget's 57.6. How do they calculate those charges? I don't know. How the tourism zone calculates the charges? Anybody know?
Are they,
Based on the room, it's based on the room tax dollars collected, which is,
Yeah, I don't know how we
And
budgeted, but we're down 3% in road tax. County's up 5. Yeah, right here, tourism zone charges. It's really more of it, maybe the budget's whacked up, I don't know. And also, I don't know how often we incur those.
So tourism zone charges that's the municipal reimbursement.
That's municipal reimbursement.
Calculated based on,
So
this
it's
number is
only-
projected.
Yeah.
The way that, we're gonna have to double check with them.
Yeah, they
They send us
reimburse you
bill.
because we pay and then the county reimburses us, or
Yeah.
DEC reimburses us, right? Yeah.
yeah, we never know
Never mind, that's
exactly,
not a, okay,
yeah, we never know exactly what that's gonna
that's
be,
not a big thing.
because we don't know what the room taxes are.
Okay, I just didn't understand it, sorry.
does anybody have anything else? Okay, item 6C, 2026 budget preliminary review and discussion.
Just to mention right away that, when I send out the CAP working sheet and, budget, in 6, it's just a template. Still work in process. I added lots of information that could be useful. If not, do I need to share screen, explain things?
If you would like to, Vlad, go ahead.
Glenn, I have a really quick question. This is an easy one. Did we update policies in this spreadsheet? Are we still, I don't even know if we need to do it, but there's a tab for policies. We didn't really fully.
No, not yet.
Okay, same with the budget notice. That's what I thought, just check it. Okay, so you're on government fund summary, right?
Yes, so what I did, I added 3 years of actuals and 3 years of budgeted with running averages. So it would be very helpful for some of the expenses, just to kind of refer. And that's pretty much across the whole budget. Then we can refer previous years.
So my first question is that it looks like the 2026 budget, I think across the board is planned identical to the 2025 budget. So is that like a placeholder
It's just a
or?
placeholder.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
I do have some numbers that,
Okay.
utilities and
I understand. Okay, I just wanted to, great.
So on the governmental funds summary, does anybody have any questions pertaining to those numbers? Well, actually, it's kind of, we shouldn't even dive into that because we have all the other tabs to look through, which would then affect the summary. So if we go to general fund revenues, the next tab, do we have some questions pertaining to that?
I can't read this, and I don't have my computer here, but the revenue line that was related to miscellaneous wasn't defined in this document. You say it was defined someplace else. Miscellaneous revenues was like 165,000.
Yeah, those were weren't those the transfers that Vlad talked about earlier?
Well, the transfers in, there's about, what, $900,000 of revenue outside the tax levy, right? And they're intergovernmental.
What
Several.
line are you looking at?
I can't read it.
the only miscellaneous revenue.
Julie, it looks like we planned room tax flat, right? Budget's 57.6 and last year was 57.6.
Well, like Vlad said, he didn't enter, it's just a template, right now he hasn't filled in the.
No, I mean the
numbers.
2025 budget, which is good. I'm glad we planned it flat.
So
It's good.
this room tax is pretty much like the reimbursement to cover the reimbursement for next for reimbursement funds.
Yeah.
So it's mirroring number. Just like
You planned it flat. It's good. It's fine. Like maybe exceeded, but it's fine.
So our season's been going in the downtown area, I think we'll definitely see that this year.
Maybe. I mean, our trend is not good. It's the worst in the county. We're down 3%. The county's up 5%. But we have never really good.
But the next finance committee, probably up to 80% of the numbers filled in the budget side. As long as the CAP almost completed.
So then basically this is on here for everyone to get familiar with how the budget is structured and then the averages you put in there to help understand, like maybe when you're trying to calculate fuel charges or cleaning supply charges, is that what it's for?
Yeah.
So I know that there's placeholders in here. But I would like to make some quick comments, and they don't necessarily maybe need to be debated unless it's a really big number. But I think when we look at our 2024 budget on the general revenues tab, we were 2,583,823. And we increased that to 2.6 for 2025. And that number is either a placeholder or whatever. We had talked about 0% increases. And preferably a reduction because of the bump last year. So I think, I did not run the numbers per se, but I think that we should look in general terms for general property taxes, and have our goal be 2.4 million. I think that we should look at trimming, a minimum of a couple of $100,000, which I don't think should be a problem, the way that I, looked through the budget. But I would like to see that, us work towards that.
So Denise, you're looking at general fund revenues, right?
Yes, that tab.
Got it. And the budget on the tax side is 2.678.
2.6.
2025 budget,
Yes,
taxes, 2678, right? Then if I scroll down to the bottom and I look at line 79, the budget's like 38, I'm rounding it off, but 38.
oh, you're looking at, yeah, but that, no, the budget for 25 was 2,620,241. Don't look at the total at
Okay,
the
so
bottom.
just general.
You're looking at the
taxes.
tax levy, right?
Yeah.
What gets
Yeah.
billed to
Okay, so
citizens,
2620.
not the other,
Yeah.
not the other
And
revenue.
the placeholder is 2620, but I know it's a placeholder, I got it.
And you're saying the goal should be to try and keep 2.4 is what you'd like to see?
That is my suggestion.
Based on the current expense trend line that we see from Vlad, it seems very possible. The unknown would be the CID.
So you'll tell me, I just need to I'm not disagreeing at all, but to understand, either how we get to that or, what's behind that thought, just for me to learn, that's all.
Well, when we get into the weeds of all the other pages.
Yep.
Later, I think we can,
Okay. Perfect.
but just as we had kind of made a directive to staff about a 0% increase. Some departments held to that, some didn't. Especially in the CIP. So I think that's just, so all those involved know that we are looking not just 0, but actually a reduction now that we have these documents in front of
So
us.
it's now like 8%.
I just want on the budget, 2.49.
I mean, it would be great if we can get below that, but I think we should try to achieve that. So just so I don't waste a bunch of this committee's time, on that same page where it talks about liquor revenue. And so our actual was 17,024. We budgeted 18,000 for 25, but we only did 16,000. And I know it's revenue, but you know, are you going to be tweaking things of that nature, Vlad, and like reducing that back down to 16,000? And the same with operators licenses. I know it ebbs and flows because some people buy the 2-year license. So 1 year tends to be higher than the other one. It doesn't necessarily average out. Will you be making those adjustments, Vlad, or do you want recommendations from this committee?
I think, we're gonna look with that. See what happened over the years, and plus, definitely go big.
Okay.
Have we got all the revenue from liquor in, or is there more to come?
But it should, I'm not saying that somebody else might not.
But there's not
open up
much
a new
else
restaurant.
coming.
There's
Yeah.
not much else coming,
Right.
because it was due, it's all due by June 30th.
Right,
Okay.
so the one that I'm trying to think, so there is one, now that we're able to issue that larger license, I forget what it's called, the one, the population hits a certain amount. There is somebody who's interested in that, so if that moves forward, what would that impact 2026?
We have not made that available yet, though.
And that would be 26. I'm thinking.
Oh,
Yeah. That's a big, long conversation.
that would impact that.
It's nice if that becomes available.
board. And the same with building, because that's pretty predictable, isn't it? With building permits and stuff, because Goki's in there, right? And isn't he the, I don't know what else is called, well, I guess it would be, the next one would be,
He would have paid his permits though before.
and Devlin, what about him?
Nick probably wouldn't pay until next year.
Till next year. All right, so that's kind of where it's gonna be.
That's always a kind of an odd one because you're getting most of your big ticket applications in fall.
The following year.
So the intergovernmental revenue is at 40% of the year after 6 months. Is that seasonal also?
We're trying to,
State shared revenue, personal property aid, expenditures. I'm looking at this version of the same information. So this, is this at 40% because
It's account number 43,000.
Line 11.
I'm on page 23 in the packet. Looking at the actuals for this year. I'm just wondering why we're at 50% of the year and it's only 40%. I'm assuming it's calendarized, otherwise we'll be short of revenue in that category.
He's got some numbers in our energy, so I think.
some of the payments are coming in like in July, and it's only, just received, remember those printouts that you handed to me today?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, $70,000-$90,000 came in just recently.
Okay.
Well, does anybody else have any other questions pertaining to that tab? All right, next tab. General government.
That's hard when you don't have the numbers. It's just, I think,
But
questions on where they come from.
But we usually, I'm never really too worried about payroll because that's just,
It is what it is.
it is what it is. And insurance, the same thing. Can't do anything about that.
Yeah, a lot of those numbers don't come in until early fall. We just, everybody else is doing their budgets, so when you're in a state system, you have to wait till those go through to get your, how it impacts your budget.
When we budget for election, we take a portion of the clerk's wages.
Yes, yeah, so a portion of the clerk's wages would be in the election budget.
Was there oh, sorry. On line 32 for health, was there a reason that you can recall that it jumped up to $28,000 and then we budgeted $10,000 for this year? Yeah, for sure. So for health, in 2024, it was 28,000 and then we only budgeted $10,000 for this year. Is there a predictability to that? Or why it jumped up that year?
The administration, we ended up using different allocation method. Remember, Julie, when you said like admin wages is spread out, part of goes to Marina, wastewater treatment, and then parks, finance.
Yeah, so
So they're under different tabs?
Yeah,
starting
last
in
year-
2025?
Yeah, so all like admin wages, they kind of divided out.
Okay, so how it was in the packet that we just got. I just want to make sure something, I was like, was there some catastrophic health thing that we were not prepared for or something?
No, we just allocated differently.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it looks like we're gonna come in there under for village hall, which I get, and most of that's utilities.
And nobody's been using, we haven't had much use of that building now this year.
So most, our audit has been done. I know that they will come in late fall and start running some that we might still have, some more bills from CLA, but before the year is over. Because in '24, we did spend $42,000 on line 155, auditing and consulting. And our actual so far is 12,000 for this year. Budget was 17,600. So I think that's a number that we need to,
Yeah, so it's CLA,
I don't have to, you don't have to go
Explain what
into
it was.
detail or whatever. I think that's something that we should watch and make sure that, we are covered.
When we go back just a little ahead of that, on total administrator, we're at 121.
What line?
I'm on page 26 in the packet. We've already spent 120,000 of our full year budget after 6 months. Am I reading that right? General fund, total administrator, 121, actual 121, budget 101. Unexpended, I'm not sure I'm getting this.
those administrative links would include, you know,
Scott, I got all the detail here. It's health, HSA, recruiting, computer software, it's everything here.
right, that's not administrator, it's administrative.
It says administrator, I'm just reading the word.
Sorry.
It just the way it's, so the budget, this part of the budget, it includes not just administrative,
I'm just saying that budget line is over, it looks like.
it is over, yeah.
Pretty much.
It includes Sarah, included part of Heidi's wages.
It looks like we could run 100% over the original budget. Is that what you're saying?
So Mike, when
Probably
we
would
had,
not be over 100%, but
yeah, so when we had, so like I was saying, that includes the whole administrative side of it, and like with Janelle, we had to pay her, when she left, we had to pay, do you remember how many thousand? Yeah, so
On
almost
work
20,
wages, right?
her accrued comp and vacation.
19,000.
So it was almost $19,000 that we had to pay that employee when they
Well,
left,
then we go to the clerk cost and we're already at 85% of the year.
because we had to do the same thing with the clerk.
And then elections are under, yeah, okay.
So when employees leave and you have to pay.
I'm just saying,
them,
those two categories, those are pretty big numbers.
But those are
That's
fine. It would have been hard to budget.
And agreed. Hey, Vlad, finance director, 49% and 50% of the year. That's precision.
Pretty dull over there with you. Just kidding.
On line 171. Electric and gas, for the buildings that we heat with propane, are we signing contracts to get the best price, and who is taking care of that?
I don't know about some of the other ones. I do know, because I think they were on contracts, but I don't know if they were on contracts before I got here. I know with the new parks maintenance building, we had to sign a contract.
And did we get quotes from the different propane companies?
That was part of the bid process. I'd have to ask Mike. So Mike, the architect had shopped around or told us which company we were going with. I think that was all part of the bid process.
That makes no sense.
I'd have to ask Mike, because we were told,
I mean,
Yeah,
maybe for the building
Right.
itself, but I mean, I'm just talking about, we have a village hall that uses propane. We have that building. Do we have contracts just to fill the tank to get the best price, and you pay up front for X amount of gallons, like every homeowner?
I'd have to ask Eric unless you know Vlad.
Well, I know this, like on the parks building, you probably had, I'm assuming we buried the tanks there. So we would have, we could have separated and purchased the tanks and the installation costs from somebody else and then gone and got a contract. Or they might have bundled it all together. One of those two things probably happened.
I mean, if you buried 2,000-gallon tanks out there and filled them, it's easily 15,000.
Yeah.
And that's a
And
great point, that's a great point, Denise, like, we were like this entire, look, this as a whole.
Right.
It could lead to significant savings, if we don't know what we're paying now. And there was a cooperative place, I believe, not too long ago, set up in the village that had reduced rates for a lot of businesses, I believe. So we were part of it.
I don't even know about that.
It,
You mean Door County Co-op?
It was probably 4 years ago now, it was a part of a cooperative for the village that we were getting a significantly reduced rate.
Wasn't that from,
Company.
it wasn't Al Johnson, was it?
I'm not sure, I'd have to look into it, but it's no longer, it was, I think it was Farrell, because the tank is the same,
It is, we do pay zero.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty.
Well, right now, it's going to be like in the price, we just got our thing, like, go from zero. But, weird thing is that when you look at the fire department or the fire station, they're way under their budget, unlike gas.
So, one thing that Vlad has been doing since he's been here is he's been looking at, he picks a certain function or expense and tries to look at, is there a way to get a better rate on stuff? So he's been doing that with several things. So gas is one he could look at, but he's been, as time allows, just kind of picking something like, whether it be internet providers or cell phones or paper suppliers or whatever it is. And he tries to look at how everybody is, because of what we've seen in the past is you have one department going with this vendor, another department going with this vendor, another one going with this. And Vlad's been trying to get them cohesively to all use the same vendor and get better rates. But we just started that this spring as well. So we did that with internet right now.
So I think this should be a priority because it is contract time right now.
Yeah, I did write down the propane, so you can look at that.
So with the fire department, Louise, you make a good point. I think we ought to check to make sure, kind of with the leadership vacuum that could exist there, that we don't have accumulated bills or unprocessed payables or.
They don't.
Okay, I'm glad you're confident of that. That's good.
Well, we have a clerk treasurer who
Good.
is, I believe, Stacy Bell, who
Good.
is excellent.
Yeah.
Great. That's excellent.
And Mike comes in, talks with Vlad or I, they're keeping it afloat, they're doing okay.
Joey, should I mention that, about the email from Stacy?
Yes, so, if you wanna do that, Vlad, or I can. Well, I'm just gonna, go ahead.
What happened, a little bit behind on, the fire department dues. And behind in what way? So it was budgeted like 170 some thousand, but actual number is a little bit different due to that. Either miscommunication or, information. How would you describe it, Julie?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but for example, they requested like 170. I think we discussed and approved that, but what was in the budget was a different number, whatever it was, it ends up being almost $7,000 a year, isn't it, Vlad?
Yeah.
Difference that was actually physically written and put into the document. So they contacted us, Stacy contacted us last week or the week before and said, hey, I see you're making quarterly payments, how are we gonna get the full amount? Is that gonna be made up for in the fourth quarter? And so when we looked at it, we're like, yeah, they gave us the numbers. We can see the numbers they gave us, but that's not what ended up in the final document. So there's a difference, almost $7,000 of what they requested, what we discussed, and then what actually was put in the document that got adopted. And that's one of those that we did not catch the discrepancy. So I said to Glad, I said, well, I know that the board was aware of it. I recall them asking, I remember their committee talking about it, because I remember them having the spreadsheet saying, hey, if we go with this one, it's a difference of $6,700 or whatever. But that's not what got actually in the document. It was overlooked. So she's like, how are we gonna get that money? How are we gonna get that payment? She said, I'm okay if you give it to us in the fourth quarter, but we're counting on that money, on that payment. So that's a discussion, I was glad, I said, we gotta figure out how that's gonna get paid. I said, we have to ask the committee what they wanna do about that to make sure the fire board gets their money.
And then let's that be an agenda item for the next meeting that we have, so we can do just that.
I'm sorry, where is that in the budget?
It's under, is it under, public
Right.
safety?
It was under public safety, okay, because I'm looking at the wrong line. Okay, gotcha. We aren't there yet, okay.
Okay, anything else on that tab? Okay, then we go to general government, or no, excuse me. Public safety is next. Not too much to do. Cipher there. Okay, then we go to public works.
There's
So-
been a lot.
This, I had a reoccurring, and I don't want to necessarily have to bring it up when it pertains to hourly paid staff. This is maybe the first time that it comes up, where on Public Works, full-time wages, line 9. So our actual in 24 was 60,000. We budgeted almost double that. Through June, we're at 630. And we're proposing that same budget. And yet our part-time wages are way over budget. So I'm hoping that all of that will be adjusted where it all applies on multiple pages. Because in multiple different places, our part-time wages are over budget and our full-time are under budget. And this is through 6/30, so we still have July and August with a lot, especially with our Parks Department. And then sometime in fall, I don't know how late they're all working or whatever. But if we can get a better handle on that, splitting that out.
Sure, I do know that we have spent more on part-time because with the departure of one of the staff people that was not replaced, you know, we are paying the existing staff a little more to take on more duties, but there's also, some of the part-time hours also got increased to make up for the shortage.
So if that's still the recommendation from Eric, that we just have more part-time people and we're not hiring another person next year, then he has to come up with numbers that reflect that.
So one of the things was the committee had said they would for the benefit of the group, so an employee left and the staff was like, well, you know, we'll try covering his wage and then, so they got compensated a little extra on a travel basis. Let's see if we can do it with 3 full-time guys besides the department head, just at a higher wage and, you know, float in some more part-time hours in there. And, you know, staff is kind of mixed on it. Some like it, some don't. But the committee said, we'll try this on a part-time basis and revisit it in November. So we really won't know until November unless we move it up, which we should, as to whether we're gonna stay with the 3 or hire another to have that 4th position. So that's kind of in limbo, I guess, until we know that. And Vlad and I have talked about that, you know, right now I had talked to Vlad and I said, Vlad, budget it as if it's 4 full-time because you're erring on the side of caution. And again, when sometimes we budget high and we don't spend it, it's because sometimes you have employees leave, you don't fill them for a couple months, you know, so you're gonna have excess revenue. Or in this case where we budget high, not knowing what we're gonna have.
But we should know. Later,
We would hope.
not necessarily
Later
now,
we
but
would know,
later.
right?
So,
Yes,
So you sold it right, line item 9. You can tell that it's always been like budgeted this amount, came out actual, that amount, even if they trying to budget less, it comes out more. So what happened, the way we, do the wage estimate, you calculate out each employee, gonna work like, 40 hours times like 52 weeks with benefits, and then
So capital. That summary is just a graph, so we'll skip over that capital. Actually, we're gonna go through the whole list, so maybe we should go back to that later after we go through the CIP. So, Pratt Capital. Premier Resort Area Tax. Okay, then we have tip number 1. Do you have questions on this one?
Well, the issue I have is I thought we were looking at the capital improvement plan, if we're gonna look at the TID details, or we're looking at a different schedule. I gotta pull it up. I have the TID details.
You could move on if need be while I'm gone.
We're not going through this spreadsheet that you sent us to discuss
Yeah, we
the
will.
CIP.
Once, this is the budget for now, then do you have any questions as far as like tip number 1, tip number 2?
Well, yeah, I mean, the TID questions are we gonna do a better job forecasting them in the future? But we already talked about that. I'm looking at the proposed budget as it relates to the TIDs here now. And this is from last month's meeting, so
I think, you know.
probably not updated.
Yeah, and the good thing is, we know that that assessment error is corrected, that impacted it, so we don't have to worry about that. The TID audit is done, so that helps us. As soon as, once we have those numbers, it should be accurate.
I just want to mention right away, since like it became such a sensitive topic and like very touchy and all over the place, going forward, I'm gonna ask Adam to help me with, so I'm not gonna get. But what I'm trying to say, to avoid all of the liabilities and going, Adam's going to be helping with.
Yeah, I get it. But then we ought to bring him in front of the finance committee to face some scrutiny and questions so that we get
He
a
was
better
thinking-
understanding.
We worked with him last year too, before the
Good.
budget, so,
Good.
You know, it is.
yeah, that's it, for sure. Okay, so TID 1 is the first one, and that's up around Cherrywood over there, right? Northwoods, right?
Yeah, and Julie, can you please email me the maps of TID 1 and TID 2? One of the TID 2, I believe, is online, but TID 1 I couldn't find anyplace. Or vice
Yeah.
versa, I don't remember.
Yeah, I had explained they were in the back of the comp plan, last time we talked about it.
I went to the state database and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, they're in the back, I might guess.
That's what you look on,
We
we do
Yeah.
have it on our website.
Okay, if you
I'll
could have
email it
somebody
to you,
send me the
yeah.
link to that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so the budget for 25 was $1,141,000. Year to date, we're at $1,248,000. And is this a placeholder, the 2026 budget, Vlad? $1,005,000 or $1,498,000?
They look into one.
I'm looking to one, yep.
The beginning fund balance?
Yeah, so maybe fund
Those
balance.
numbers are increments, they have not been calculated.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Pretty much like property tax.
So at the bottom for the ending fund balance, where it gives our 2025 budget of like 1.49. But right now it's actually at 2.8 billion. Like a real dumbed down answer that somebody has on why those are so different. Did we just collect so much extra tax from that TIG district that all of a sudden it's all in there?
Yeah, look at line 8.
So at the ending fund balance, or for, this is what we thought it would be in 2025, but it's already here. Is that because we collected so much more in taxes than we thought because of that 11%?
Because of the jump in increment.
Like $500,000 more.
124, it ended up to be. So that's why this year we're gonna be doing like reverse calculation,
Right.
gonna adjust levy based on increment numbers. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
So before,
So it happened in the
Was-
TID too. Oh, yeah, sure.
and,
Okay,
and that's how it pretty much been like throughout the years. So
so this
you-
is kind of a moving target.
yeah. So the general levy, which is in general fund, the property tax gonna be pretty much dependent on the increment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And how is the increment calculated?
I don't have spreadsheets.
That's okay. The assessor calculates it.
No,
Is this their worksheet?
we calculated.
You calculate it. That's the worksheet.
This is the mill rate worksheet. You've seen this before.
One question. TID property tax money, because it's in a TID property tax, has to be used in that specific district or something. So that's where we were kind of running.
Yes. Because it was such a big increase, that's why we saw it. Otherwise, it has been minuscule up until that point. So between the reval and building, it was like the perfect storm,
Right.
fortunately.
So if we don't spend this money that's sitting in these TID funds by the end of the life of the TID fund, are we in trouble?
No, they are paid, and that's what you will see on some of those transfers from the TID into the general fund
It's paying for something the general fund paid for, but that was.
in the
district.
past.
But you also have to give a portion back to the taxing districts, so if you don't spend it, a portion would have to go back to Gibraltar School, to the county,
Want
to
to avoid that.
NWTC. You don't wanna
Right,
give
those
them
aren't
back,
in the-
Right.
you don't wanna give them,
break even.
yeah, you don't wanna give them back their taxes. We really don't,
Were you talking about TID 1 or 2? What spreadsheet were you looking at, seeing I was out of the room?
I was just looking at TID 1 and TID 2, and I just,
Oh,
the difference in what we thought it was gonna be versus where it already is now, is that because the tax jumped up and then all of that's sitting there now, and now we've gotta use it?
that's not a problem.
I know, we have places to use it.
We have, well, we used a lot of it for the waterfront. We emptied every single savings account that the village had to do the waterfront. And we used all of that cash, how many years ago? 10 years ago or whatever it was when we did the waterfront. So we would have to borrow less.
Okay.
And when TID 1 was implemented, way back when, this is when Bob Cuffred was administrator.
2014. And Steve went.
Okay. A long time ago. It was implemented then, and then we had Zeke and Bo, and now we have Julie, so it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
And when you create a TID, you have a base value of what all your properties were. Shortly after that, we bought the Helms property.
Oh.
And so
Skyrocket.
that was, then now we were in a negative. Because now that was, the village owned it. So let's say everything in the TID district in downtown that this encompassed, just for simplicity, let's say it was worth $10 million, okay? Let's say Helms was worth $2 million, okay? So now we're at 8. So we had to have $2 million of development and increment just to get back to our base,
Because we spent $2 million on the property.
We took 2 million in value off the tax roll,
off the tax
because
roll.
that property was worth, in this
Oh.
example, it was worth 2 million.
But the village doesn't pay itself taxes.
Right.
Gotcha.
So then we had to make up that just to get back to our base value before we could start recurring implement.
So can this TID money, and this is maybe a different discussion, can TID money, like is the marina in TID, was it TID?
I don't
Yes.
think
Remember if it's in the map.
It's in T1, but,
it is, but
it
it,
doesn't pay taxes, like,
But even as an enterprise fund, because it benefits the public, could you use TID money to pay something in there, and then the marina could pay the village back?
yes, and we have in the past.
Just a thought.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the marina just paid it back this year or last year.
they're still paying that.
They're still paying
Yeah, I
it
think
back.
they have, it says in the
Instead of
schedule
taking out
here,
loan,
there's,
We borrowed them
I
money.
think
Saying
3
it
or 4 years still
Something in
left.
a situation where we've got extra TID money, we don't wanna have to.
Problem is, we really don't have
We
extra
don't.
TID money because like for the bluff, we have so many road projects that are in the hopper that are completely crumbling away. I think your TID money is dedicated for quite a while, just for your roads. Because let's face it, the roads, we didn't have money and we didn't, prior to 2008, it was pretty bleak. So the roads were not maintained and they were, and it's not until recently that we started dedicating money to start repairing those roads again. So right now, last year it was Mill Road West. And then for this year and next year, it's the triangle, which is Maple, Bluffside, Parkview, that area. And then there's a bunch of them that need work that,
And we only have 2 million, and nobody really thinks in the CIP, and nobody's
It's
really
not
thinking
enough.
that's gonna be enough money
I don't
to
know.
do that sewer and water and road work and everything over there, because that has not been touched since 1972 when they put in sewer and water.
so we have $1 million from the TID this coming year going to fix that road, and then $1 million next year, but you really don't get that much money out of those TIDs. They're pretty small. Sometimes the development is slow.
Oh, yeah, TID two is tiny, okay. That's a much better explanation, though. I was, like, the TIDs were a little confusing to me for a minute.
So anything else on TID 1 or 2?
No, that was helpful.
I would like to not go through water, wastewater, and collections at this time. I would like to have utilities go through these numbers with Megan, so I think it would just be a waste of our time. Marina they did not give numbers to Vlad, so I don't think that there's too much to talk about there. So I think we are done with that section. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the CIP and the 10 attachments pertaining to that. So if we are on attachment number 1 in the Excel spreadsheet,
The packet?
The packet pages?
I'm going through all the attachments, which has all the details.
Yeah, page 40.
So you're not gonna, are you gonna start on the summary, or you're gonna start with the first one? General government.
I'm starting on the summary of funds.
Okay.
I would suggest for meetings in the future, for the action items in the agenda, we know if we're gonna be on the packet or in one of the spreadsheets that we have, because this is getting a little confusing. I think I have the right documents, but there was no way to know.
Well, they do have page, mine has page numbers on it. I think, Bridget, did you print out the?
This
later
is
one?
from the packet.
Yeah.
I
have the whole
packet is
packet.
just the,
I have the whole packet, but we're referencing documents that are outside the packet now, or are we back in the packet?
We've always been in the packet,
Okay, so which page of the packet are you on?
45.
I'm not on that page, Julie. I'm in all the attachments that Vlad,
Oh, the email flat.
Yeah, I know you are.
Email, okay.
that's what I did.
I'm in.
Yeah, I know.
I think
I
that
was just trying to keep up with you by looking through the packet.
Okay.
So we're on 45 in the packet now, or we're
No, I'm
on
not
the
on the
spreadsheet?
packet.
Okay.
We're in the large attachment email.
Right,
Right.
where there were 13 attachments, and this would be number 1.
Okay.
Okay. So summary of funds. So we can just skip that and go over to general government. So. Does anybody have any questions about general government?
We all went. Now, 1 year experience. Takes a while.
Well, I referenced my previous, I brought my old one with me also.
Well, I also have the one that we did in January.
I also have that one too.
January. The January one is helpful, I think.
Are these grants we have for sure in the bag or grants we hope to get?
No, hope to get.
Okay, so again, I can't read this up here, but I'm looking at,
It's page 46.
on the.
There,
in the
I just
packet.
looked, they're identical.
Okay, perfect.
The
I was
heading
looking
is
at-
summary of funds 2026 through 23.
Yeah, they are identical, thank you. So when we look at the top half of this, the funding sources, we have bond proceeds of $1 million. We have grant proceeds of $1 million, which Bridget just asked if those are a certainty. And what was the answer to that?
We have not applied.
We have
for
not
that.
applied. So there's $2 million in sources, and then it says total available funds, so is the difference cash?
Oh, beginning fund, yeah, what is the beginning fund?
The total available funds of $5,894,000.
Right, that's including the, if you look at the very top, beginning fund balance,
So the cash.
3.8 million. And then if you get the bond proceeds and the grants, that's the total sources for 2 million.
But I'm just asking, is the difference cash in the bank?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Glad, were you gonna say something different?
Yes, so.
Oh.
Not like contradicting or anything, so, but Adam is going to audit the CAP, the fund balances,
Okay,
so that might change.
all right. But materially, we think they're probably right. Okay,
Does this beginning fund balance include the 3.3 that we took off for broadband?
We're trying to,
I would assume it does.
On page 46, or the first tab that Denise has us open, the beginning fund balance is 3.894. Do we know, does that include the $3.3 million bond we have out?
For the other sources.
Well, with the, the total's 5.8, we're assuming we get a bond proceed, another bond of $1 million, a grant of $1 million, but that 3.8 that we start out with in 2026, is that because we didn't spend the money on broadband? Like, would this have been 500,000 to start out with?
so it's only have $1 million because it's sort of like spread out.
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years.
So in that 3.8 million, only $1 million of it would be broadband dollars?
Correct, yeah.
But what's the other? I just want to make sure we're not spending money that's supposed to be for something else, because it's already just.
That's all notated
Okay,
elsewhere.
okay.
So the 3.2 is spread out every year though, right? I mean, that, I think what Bridget is asking, I think, is that 2026 number, does it include 3.2 million? Or is that 3.2 million spread across the years, so that number only includes this year's share of the 3.2 million?
It's only this year's share.
So, can you see what's going on the screen? Julie, that's what we were talking about. We don't need to.
Oh, there's the
1 million.
3.8,
Right, if you,
Oh,
$1 million and.
if you look
1.3.
at what Vlad has brought up is instead of general government, the next tab broadband in Vlad's email, we're still on number 1, general government, but if you click on broadband, you will see exactly what Vlad has brought up there.
Okay.
And that's why I like using this, because you get to see the background information, not just the summary. Because each of these tabs are conversations that we have to have.
Those have the notes that we put in there.
Right.
Would it be easier, Denise, to go through each of those items
Yes.
and then go back? Because I know for me it is. So like starting with the,
Okay, I need to make some corrections first.
Okay.
Somebody else has found the errors that I found?
Well, what this says is that if we do another bonding and we get the grants, we have 5.894 million available. And it's showing $1 million allocated to broadband, showing $3 million for the administration building, 75,000 to demolish the old Parks building, and $150,000 in improvements for the village hall. And then it's netting that. Am I understanding that correct, Vlad? So that would be the 26 impact that you projected here. Right? Starting balance, additional funding.
Those starting balances. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're uncomfortable saying that's an exact
Yes.
number. I'll let's just say it's around.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's the number that we have, so
the
let's
number
just
we
go with
have,
that.
that's a better way to say it, I agree. So it's a number we have. We think with these inputs of bonded grants, we get to this. And these are the projects that are being proposed in the CIP.
Correct.
That are gonna be up for funding request, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And the total use or cost would be 4.225 is what the capital plan would need to be. And if that number was correct, the remaining balance would be 1.7 million in the capital fund. Yeah, okay. And then you take it out 27, 28, 29, 30.
And then you just take.
Yep. Got it, thank you.
plan with the road triangle, is that the same thing?
Yes,
Unless it says 2313.
what's that one?
The fire station building, that
Oh.
property, what's to do with that?
Wait, the old Parks building?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, still call it the old fire station.
It was?
Mm-hmm.
So, Vlad, I think that there's another error in the cells because this sheet does not reflect the $150,000 under a capital projects levy that shows in the Village Hall future.
Isn't that what Village Hall future engineering renovation is, 150,000?
I'm talking about in the funding source,
Oh, you don't think it's covered by the funding?
correct?
Oh, we have more money than we need.
That's not the point. Here, capital projects levy, 2026, 150,000. This is blank. So that is not going there. So that's a formula error. Under bond proceeds, it should not be 1 million. So that's another formula error. That should be 3 million for the admin building. And then pertaining to 2027, also Village Hall future,
Just a second.
why don't you come sit by me? Well, we can come back.
So I, no, it's instructional.
Oh,
No, this one's instructional.
what time did they close?
Just have to be early.
So Denise, on this, and we went through this in, March.
Yep, I have that right here.
Take that because it was restricted, the 75 grand for, demo out. You zeroed that out or no?
No, it was restricted,
It was removed,
but we're,
sorry.
but we're still using it in 2026. We're not levying for it because we've already levied for it.
Okay.
It's not because we already had the capital outlay restricted, but we're using it. So that's why the 75,000 shows up.
Okay.
Are we not taking the old parks building down?
Yeah, that's the $75,000 here.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to understand is are we that worried about the beginning fund balance? Why are we increasing the funding and bonding if we have over the next 5 years here a net balance of over $1 million in this fund?
Because on the tabs on the bottom, it shows, if you correlate and add up all those red tabs on the bottom of the page, they should all correlate to a category or a year on general government and administration, and it doesn't. So there's a formula in it.
Okay.
So this is admin building, should be 3 million. Proceeds, 3 million.
Dumb question. Do we even need to take out the $3 million bond for the admin building if we have enough to? According to this. Okay. I just want to make sure that.
Yes, we need to bond for it.
But if it was messed up and we still had.
It is
money,
deceiving.
it's very deceiving.
And continuing the bond or finance projects keeps our credit rating up there as well.
But
But
we're
that-
not,
that-
it's
really, that's-
incorrect, because we are not
We already
using,
have
we are not paying them $1 million. They're not even starting.
Right now.
I think that them telling us we need to keep the credit rating up, I think that's a little bit of an oversell,
Yes,
if I'm being totally honest.
yes.
And that's not a reflection on anybody here, that's a reflection on.
Yeah.
Their guidance, quite frankly. I think that, I'm just saying, if we have the money to pay for it, and we don't have to take out another bond, I don't think we should take it.
Especially when you look at,
But we don't have $3 million sitting around, Bridget.
It says we have $3.8 million up top.
And that may be for certain other things that we are saving money for. There are pots of money that we save for over years, like what we've been doing just for, like the fire department as an example, okay? We've been sticking money away. It has to build up somewhere until we're ready to spend $1 million on radios or whatever that dollar amount may be. Some of this very well could be restricted. It all of that correlates to different pots of
I
money.
get the concept of restricted funds, but we should also know that too. So if Adam's auditing this and the number, let's say it does come out to 3.8, if there is some restriction on the use of the fund, we should know how much it is and what the restriction is.
Well, we always had that document someplace else and we knew what the balance was in each of those accounts.
Because we get new boards, we get new priorities, things change over time. We do
We
need
have
really
that, he
good.
doesn't have to do it.
Okay, good.
3.8 doesn't mean it's available to us. Some of that, and you can't tell it by looking at this chart, is committed to other projects.
I'm with you, so
Okay.
those would be restricted if they're committed to other projects. I think when we look at this number, we should know how much of that number is restricted, and we should know what projects it's for.
I would imagine it's all restricted. It's because otherwise it would, it's in the capital improvement plan. Otherwise it would be in the general.
I think you're probably right, but we should know that for sure.
It's money we've collected and set aside to pay for the projects.
We need to keep $1 million in 2026 for broadband.
Well,
Agree with
that's
that.
that's, all of that needs to go away, because if they're not starting till when, Julie?
So
28?
Vlad and I talked about this, and we don't have the schedule yet, so we were like, okay, we know we need to get something in here for finance committee, so we talked about how you pay as you go, right? So if they, let's say in 26, they go through, they do the engineering, maybe they start doing some ground pouring or whatever. We've got to pay that, so we need something there. What is that? And I said to Vlad, I said, I don't know what that is because we don't know. So, you know, in the past, we were just saying, hey, 3 million for broadband in 1 year, which wasn't wise. So I said, well, let's at least break it out amongst 3 years.
Okay.
Because
Julie, did
don't
we
know
bond
what
all
that is.
3 years? Did we bond the 3.3 million?
We did,
Yeah.
and that's what we have the loan on.
And are there restrictions on how we use the money?
There was on the bond lab, but not the loan, right? So as long as I think it has to be, originally Baird said it had to be used for the broadband project, but I think that was the bond. Now that we're in the loan, or
I don't think we gotta use it for broadband.
So
Yeah,
this
that's
is
the
kind of the
long-term
question
goal.
we're going
Use it
to,
for something
understanding
else,
its
right?
restrictions.
But it's not very like adequate. Correct. That's what Justin said.
I'm sorry, it's not what?
Gray zone.
it's not
Okay.
ethical as.
Yeah, because it was borrowed and sold to the public that needs to be borrowed for this purpose. If you're gonna live out and use for something else, that's just like.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bait and switch. So you tell your public you're gonna borrow money for broadband and you take their tax dollars for broadband, but then a year later you switch it to something else is where the.
Could we do a
issue was.
referendum?
Public hearing or something to make that
We
okay.
just explain to them why, if we have to.
Well,
why we
we're-
change it, we change it, but, okay.
Anyway,
We
so
do.
that's
We're off.
the issue with it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's,
So we did it as the 1.1 and 1.3,
Okay.
just because we didn't know,
okay,
because when the bills start coming in, there has to be something there.
sure,
Yeah.
that's fine then.
So you wanna keep it there?
I understand that now because I have that to go. Also in 2027, we have $1 million for the capital projects levy. The only thing that I could find in this document that was going to be capital projects was 250,000 for the village hall. So there's a formula correction that needs.
This chart shows 1.5 million for the village hall in 2027.
That's spending, that doesn't mean we're levying that.
I found this on the web.
See, she knows.
If you go to the tab, Mike, you should probably start bringing your computer.
I have an iPad. It's sometimes hard to look at it on the iPad.
Because if you hit the admin building,
I will.
not the admin building.
I
excuse
will,
me,
but I think-
Village hall.
I think the next time we do this, we just, for each line item on the agenda, just refer to which document we're gonna look at, and I'll either bring them.
Vlad won't know how I'm gonna steer the meeting.
Well, then you and him should talk before the meeting, and
Till I get the
it
packet.
requires a little prep.
Well, hopefully it's just one packet, one file. You don't have
That's
to
the way I
spend
thought it was supposed to work.
Is there a tab for Village Hall, Denise?
It's at the bottom. It
Yeah.
says VH
The red
future.
ones.
Oh, VH, sorry. That didn't click. Okay, I got it. Do you think that number's, it's a bad number? 1.5 million, or it doesn't add up to something?
Well, I know,
The $1.5 million.
You said there was an error.
There was, Yes, which you should have caught. If you look under the Village Hall Future.
Yeah.
Tab, it says in 2026 that we are levying 150,000 for the engineer. But there's a formula error because it didn't show up in the summary sheet. And then the same in 2027, there's $1 million in there. And that should be 250,000 for the Village Hall on that summary sheet
Why 250 in the summer sheet?
for 2027.
Because 27.
Because look on the tab, it says capital projects levy 250,000.
The summary
See, you don't
says,
have.
Oh,
you don't-
I'm sorry. Oh,
For the village
You don't
hall
have to
future.
I gave my computer to somebody that was in need for my Surface. Somebody needed one, a committee member needed one, and I sacrificed mine.
Okay. All right, so we have that squared away, Vlad, both of those numbers, okay. So I think we have to, I think this on the broadband tab, I don't know what the end of this sentence is supposed to be. I think we should talk about the start date, and we'll present further. Whatever, it's not starting in 2025, so whatever that is incorrect, and so that just needs to be updated. Nothing on ad building. Building demos. Wayfinding signage, we zeroed out. We already corrected. Village Hall. 2313 Maple. There's no money there.
That's one that's gonna,
That's gonna come back.
yeah, because whether it's an admin building or parking lot or something to rectify that Knowles Nelson encumbrance, something happens, has to happen. I mean, the DNR is not gonna let, not saying it's gonna be that property, but let's say it is. Something's gonna have to happen because there's no way they're gonna keep waiting, another 5 years.
no, we have to resolve.
Where are the other grants? Did I miss those?
You have to read on each of the pages, each of the red tabs.
I know, I'm clicking on them, I just see the one for the village hall future renovations.
If you look under funding sources,
There's one in 2027 for $1 million for the future village hall.
Should be the Highway 57 trail.
Oh, it keeps going.
Highway
Oh,
42 trail.
I missed the ones past
trails aren't on these tabs.
no.
Really.
From the other ones.
Oh, I see, sorry.
All right, Vlad now has to leave at 5. Julie needs to get to Sturgeon Bay by 6.
Oh, we have an hour.
How dare all of you have a life outside of this committee?
I don't have a lot.
I don't know about anybody else, but I spent 8 hours reading this packet on
I
Saturday.
didn't spend
No.
8, I spent 2 one day and 2 the next day, I spent 4.
It's not a contest. I
No,
mean,
no, no,
part of
no,
this
I'm
has-
saying,
Part of
like,
this
now-
has to be to simplify this information, get the spreadsheets accurate, and to make it understandable for ourselves and the community. And we are wasting a lot of time in this meeting today.
100% agree. The spreadsheets keeps breaking. Take a look what's going on. I just opened it and they broke it. We should buy.
They weren't broken
Yeah,
before.
They keep breaking.
Somebody wants to say
What do you
something.
mean?
It's Andy, I think Andy's trying to.
Yeah, this is, sorry, it is Andy. Just want to jump in here. That was one of the questions we're going to have for Vlad. Vlad, do you feel like you have the adequate tools that you need to produce, accurate budgetary numbers?
On CAP, nothing.
It's very old school.
Yeah.
Probably
Does
gonna
this
get
have to do
upset.
with our
but this-
software? Or does it have to?
Louise, go ahead, Vlad.
and I pretty much said it. So if you can trying to search under something under the table when you can't see, can't hear, can nothing. Because everything's broken.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, one of the recommendations I would have is to, look to see if we could, what other tools and software applications are out there that, can help a village like ours with this exact process, right? Because I can't imagine the amount of time it takes just to manage, this type of spreadsheets. So it could really make things a lot more efficient for everyone and provide better visibility overall if we were to, look into a different platform to use moving forward. So just a recommendation or thought based on the meeting.
They want to say at the end of the day, everything, it's not one person job. It's it together because each department needs to be responsible for their things. And if it's just pretty much, I feel bad for Tasha doing all of this back in the days. And I know for a fact I won't be able to do it. Not because I don't know, first of all, it's because it's keep breaking and it's so inefficient. I just don't even want to like struggle with it because I don't know how to even put this thing back together.
Well, is it one of those things where you start off with a really good, like a really nice little basic house, right? And then you say, hey, let's build this addition. We need another bedroom. And then you say, oh, wait a second, we need, things like that happen over the course of time. Instead of just tearing the house down and building a new house. I'm not suggesting that, but I think sometimes over the period of time, in particular because Tasha was very good and she understood it and she knew how to manage it, But now it's more complicated, I think. And there's a lot more to it and there's someone new managing it and it has nothing to do, Vlad, with your ability. It has everything to do with trying to find, it's some sort of software and I am so not the person to explain to anybody what we could use. But maybe there's, if you've always been doing it the same way, you just keep doing it the same way because it's just too much of a pain in the ass. It's too hard to do it different. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to this stuff. I think it makes it hard.
So Denise, what do you want to accomplish as our chairman between now and 5 o'clock?
We need to, I want to clear up the errors on the CIP, so the next time that we see it,
I don't know that we have to all sit here while we update the CIP. You can update it and email it to us. We can have a telephone conference, or we wait and do it at our next meeting, but I don't know that I don't want to put Vlad under the pressure of updating spreadsheets. He just said we're broken while we're all sitting here watching it.
But I do have a couple questions about some of the CIP funds and some questions I have about it. And maybe because I've been in it for a little bit, just changes on some stuff. One is the ice rink. Big questions, not formulaic questions necessarily, but like what year and what's there and that kind of thing. Those things, Mike, are questions that aren't related to this should be.
Yeah, that's a good discussion. Do we all agree that we got the right projects here?
Well, and what year and so forth. And then a separate conversation, Andy, in deference to you, would be, Nate talked about putting together, and I'm not a fan of committee, believe me, but, putting together, a tech committee or something like that, and smack in the middle of budget time, maybe not the best. Take a look at like completely blowing everything up and starting over. Maybe that's not what we need to do, but I don't know, maybe there's other municipalities that do something different or whatever, but you can hear and see the frustration in that.
Yep, I agree. I'm happy to look into it.
But so I think we can go, Denise, if it's okay with you, we could talk about big picture stuff as it relates to the SIP budget for these large categories. And do they stay in the SIP? Are they in the right year? Do you want to do that and get through that piece of it? We can. Is there something that's more important that we should do before that as it relates to SIP? No. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
So that might be going through the packet pages.
Or you can
And
go
if we
through what
need
we're
to
looking at right
reference-
now, actually, broadband, we said, okay, we'll keep $1 million in 2026. we can revisit but right now it's 3.3 million, and if we want to spend it a different way, that's gonna be an uphill climb, but we can figure that out. If we need to, we may not. Admin building is 3 million, it's in 2026. There's no reason for me to move that out.
Thank you.
You think I don't?
No, but I think that we should up it.
It's gotten more expensive.
Well, in one of was it in the DOT, was it in the trail where the DOT said that there's a 4% increase every year? Well, it would,
That's in the DOT and the trail information.
okay. And so even, I mean, not even including
Just the construction costs.
just construction costs, I would like to increase it. I mean, even if you went by the DOT, the 4%, that's $120,000. I'm thinking, do we add an additional 250,000 to the 300?
Denise, I would suggest to you that we leave it at the 3 million because the likelihood of it all being spent in 26 is slim.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I just think it's slim. That it'll all be spent by the end of 26. You could even break this into 2 pieces. If they start construction on that thing 6
But
months into the
We
year.
only can take out one loan, so we have.
So
to
what
have-
we've learned is let's take that loan out as late as possible.
And I think, Mike, I think it would be, still be in 26.
Right, I mean, you just spent 4.2 million on a building in not even 10 months, 9 months. So you'd be able to put an admin building up in 26. You've already approved the design.
Look, I'm not on the board. Several of you are. I think there's a lot of discussion that's gonna take place with where that building goes and what kind of building goes there. I think we're naive to think that discussion isn't gonna still take place. And even if we stay in the same path, that's gonna take months before that's resolved.
I hope not.
Well,
Well,
I'm
I
just
would
trying to
hope-
be a realist.
I would hope it would be resolved soon. I mean, we've got issues with the DNR we have to look at. The building keeps getting more expensive, so even if it took another 3 months, it still could be built in 26.
Right, I'd like to see it resolved by the end of the year, and then we can. I'm fine with putting 3.1.
What about 3.25?
I feel like the more money you put into something, the more likely you are to spend the full amount.
A bid is a bid.
I know,
We can only go by what somebody bids.
but are we positive that that's the building we're building? What if it gets moved to Mill Road
Well, it
and
was
it's
approved.
and then, I don't know. I would say no on that personally.
I would support the 3 million.
Whatever.
I think you have time to tweak it if you have to.
Else did you have, Louise?
I actually wondered, and I don't think I placed to look. I was actually, well, hold on, let me look at Public Works, there's really nothing there. Sorry, that's the building demo, we decided to keep that in there. We zeroed out wayfinding, fine, we went through all of these, didn't we?
What was the decision on the ice rink?
Well, that's what I wanted to go to, because I wanted to go down to the ice rink and,
Before we get there, can we just, one thing on general government and administration?
sure,
I know I've talked about this and that we still don't have an answer, but at some point you have to get this in a budget. So the current administration building, a decision has to be made. Does it stay or does it go?
Yeah.
Because it is we are spending money to have a road system engineered out there, and they cannot engineer it until they know what we are doing with that building. We have to decide, does it get torn down or does it stay? So Robert E. Lee knows is that a future parking lot? Does that go into the engineering? Is that sidewalk? Do they engineer around that building? What happens with that building?
Julie, I don't know that you're gonna get an answer. This is kind of government and it's working. I mean, they're working on it. We can't, this committee can't give you
We're
that
talking about
timeline.
the current administration.
I know, we can't give you a timeline as to when you're gonna be out of that building. That's
Well,
not,
Mike,
Well,
that's
wait a
not the point, because if we have
Okay,
to go
what
somewhere
am I
else, the point is, what happens with that property? Because should Robert, because if we're saying, if we say, yes, we're gonna tear it down, but we're not gonna tear it down to 28, that impacts what Robert E. Lee's road design, that impacts our budget. I mean, we can't just keep pushing this off, we have to make a decision what happens to that building.
that's fine, but I don't think you have to make it today or tomorrow. I think you've got to figure out what
Well,
you're
the
gonna do with the new,
preliminary-
I think we have to allow the board to figure out what they want to do with the new facility, location before you can answer that question.
Not even looking at the new building, okay? I'm just saying, this
What is that we
property,
want to do with that
does
property?
it stay? Does it stay, whether you're selling it or keeping it, I
Yeah,
don't care.
that's
Or
out
does
of
it-
my, that's out of my pay
It's a
grade. That
parks
goes to
committee
the,
decision. And
oh, I
because
guess
we
it
have
is then on my different day.
Robert E. Lee wants to have a preliminary design to us by the end of August, and they need to get me that, so I can do that CMAC
Well,
grant.
because right now it's in the SIP, the 2 mil is in the SIP to do the triangle of 26, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we need to do it, and to do that, it's either tear the building down and make it a parking lot. Don't tear the building down, use it for something else.
And engineer.
Or
around
tear
it.
the building down, it becomes a park. I don't know what else, or sell the lot.
My
I don't know.
suggestion is.
How is it zoned?
B2.
But it's in historic overlay district.
Is that,
Building is
I mean, are we
not
gonna be,
of any
we can't make
value.
this decision here.
But I just wanna, hold on, so I can understand now, I know we can't make the decision here, but we do have to make, so that would come up with parks. And then and then a recommendation to the board, right?
Right, because why it impacts us here is we have to get it into this CIP, because
Yeah.
if we're tearing it down, that should be in here, for 26, because the road construction starts in 26.
But if it's tearing it down in a parking lot versus tearing it down in a park, or tearing it down and sell it, that's 3 different types of road configurations, I think.
Right, my opinion is they need to engineer it the best possible way that they can. And I think eventually the building comes down. I think eventually we sell the property. It is too small for a parking lot. Let one of the neighbors buy it, enhance their yard, let them pay to tear down the building. And what's ever left after it's engineered, that's what we sell.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're out there on, let's say, a Saturday night, 'cause I'm here, Saturday nights, and you've got, lures parked up and down the street, Husby's is way around the curve.
It's an unsafe intersection.
You can't get two-way traffic, you can't walk on the few
Yeah, it's
places
tight.
there's a sidewalk.
It's tight.
And opening that up allows us to at least get 10 more stalls out there, I bet.
So can you give them that kind of direction, or do they need we need to make a decision anyway.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that's-
yeah.
So we will put that on a parks agenda?
I actually like your suggestion very much.
Is there any way, is it in there, when they're doing this, I mean, if you work with an architect, usually they'll give you 2, 3 mock-ups if you ask, or hey, can you change this little part? Can they give you 2 options?
It's probably gonna
Give
cost
us
us a
an
little
option,
bit, like,
Robert E.
probably,
Lee. Be like, hey, can you do a quick mock-up? Doesn't have to be fancy.
Well, it'll cost us.
But I mean, it should be included, they should give you more options.
Well, either that.
We're
or-
talking about engineering though, and sewer and water pipes.
I know, but I
under the
mean, as
ground.
Since you're doing all this and paying for all of it, can they do you the favor and be like, hey, just give me a flat 1 sheet? What would this look like if we took the building down, and where would you have the road go differently versus if we kept it?
The other piece of it
Like,
too
I
is,
feel like they
how can you
would do
construct a road with parking and still, give us a very saleable lot?
I mean,
like,
it doesn't
don't
have to be
screw up the lot.
fancy.
Give us a saleable lot. That lot is, I don't know how big it is.
It's got a retaining wall. I don't know what kind of parking without building a huge retaining wall that will cost a fortune.
Well, maybe we don't. Let them tell us that. Shut up, Mike.
I didn't say anything.
All right, we're gonna move on. It'll be on parks and we'll figure it out. And if it's gonna be really expensive with the retaining wall, then it's not an option. But we can't help it. It's a bluff. Let's see, where else were we? Anybody else?
What did we decide on the ice rink?
I asked about, oh, that's what it was. on
We
the
went
ice
back
rink.
to the issue.
Don't we have, where's the $500,000 to match if they raise the funds?
We already,
That was 2025. You're starting with 26, so you're not seeing what happened in 25.
So then that'll carry over into 26 or
So
whatever?
that would be a restricted fund that's available for use in the future, I assume? Is that accurate, Denise?
Thank you, Mike.
if they do not take it in 500,000, yes. I mean, in this year, in 2025.
If they don't take it in 25, it moves to 26. Okay,
Well, it goes into the reserve pot.
all right, so that was my only question there.
It doesn't go away.
Okay. All right, my other question about streets was, we said, we made some calls on what streets to possibly, this is not, that's not in the SIP, that's part of the parks.
No, it's in this SIP. It's under streets.
Okay, so that's Canterbury Lane,
Nope,
nope,
that's Cardinal,
yearly street improvements.
Kessel.
is that it?
It's called streets, and then it'll say Kessel. Let's see where- That is the-
Well, I see where it says yearly. street
Yearly
improvements.
street improvements, Louise.
It's $100,000.
Yep, that's
We
where that
left
is.
that at parks, okay. Do you want to talk about vehicles, equipment, Denise?
I wanted to talk about the Parks Department CIP. Looking back at what we did this spring, the
Oh.
changes that we made, for 2026, the proposed capital projects levy was 1.1855 million. Finance at that time got it down to 1,035,000. Okay? Now, what's being proposed from Parks is 1.2 million, which is $147,000 over the changes that we made this early spring. So I have a problem with that. That is not a 0% increase. And what changed from that is the spring meeting, the trail to Ephraim was in the packet, but that is now swapped with the Highway 57 trail. I don't have to say anything, Julie. It changed, that's all. And it's actually for less money. Ava Hope Park was removed. A lawnmower was moved to 27, but a $75,000 replacement of a truck, a 2005 truck that was slated for 2027 is now pushed to 26.
Yeah, we bought it because of the price of.
Yep.
That we.
This is another
a
vehicle.
different one, okay.
So I feel that we are way over in the park CIP if we were trying to reduce it and level it out over the next 4 or 5 years. So, and did the track list really go up $40,000, Julie?
I don't know, you met with Vlad on that, but you know,
It's
Oh,
a 180
yeah.
now?
It's 180 now. And it was 140 in the old CAP, last year's CAP. So we took a pretty good ding on that.
And I don't know if are we gonna wait on the robot mowers?
Yeah,
No, we were told, Eric was told to get bids from 3 similar competitors, bring it back to Parks.
Okay.
But it's in here until that decision is made.
really, I thought we,
No, because he has to,
yeah, you remember better than me.
Did I read that Alice is gonna use those on her roof?
So my suggestion would be pertaining to this particular budget is that we move the 2005 truck for 75,000 back to 27.
Okay.
what did Eric tell?
And robo mowers, we do not have funds for if we want to keep our CIP lower. So I say, whatever decision is made, next year it's not happening.
We can move it out to 27.
We cannot lose sight of it, but we could put it
If it's there, then
in 27.
if it's there, we won't forget it.
So that's 125,000. We still need to change something else.
What's the carbon steel chipping cap?
That's for the new dump truck, so they can brush.
The chipping box.
Okay. There's nothing
That's
else, it's
stuff
26.
over there. Well, it has a Bobcat skidster and accessories, the replacement of the 2011 truck.
But I mean for 26.
Yeah,
Over 26.
The big one is trackless.
yeah, that's really biting.
So the 2005 truck replacement, I think one of Eric's concerns is how much these keep going up every year. And it is over 20 years old.
I get that, and he got to order the one this year, but I'm not gonna present a $1.236 million CIP when last year we were at $1 million, or this year we were at $1,000,089, and this spring we brought it down to $1,035,000. We cannot add $200,000 to the CIP.
So the easy stuff is just to move the trackless out, but I don't know how bad that would gonna change that track. Yes, it's not getting cheaper, I get it.
But that's such a money pit, and that one always has been, the trackless we've had this conversation before, it was oversold as something wonderful, we've always had issues with it, continue to have issues with it. I wish there was something else we could do with that.
Why don't we just give the new target to Eric and ask him to come up with a suggestion?
So what was it, 140 last year?
Just tell him he's gotta spend $200,000 less. What do you think the options are, Eric?
Totally.
Yeah,
Well, some of it's not, the trail to Ephraim is not
that's not his,
Yeah,
his
some of it's not.
purview.
Yeah.
The village hall engineering is not his purview.
I agree. But the equipment would be,
So we don't worry about the firehouse, we don't worry about the marina.
You know what,
right?
you know where we could get another 25,000 easy? Is we have 200,000 slated for the warming house, we dropped that to 175 and we meet that goal. Or wait, no,
I thought we took that.
we
out.
need another 75,000, sorry.
It's out of the piece, I don't see anything for the wrong.
Yeah, warming house is out. We took that out.
Not according to this.
Really?
I actually don't see
And
that
that
on my
wasn't updated.
project list either.
Refrigeration system and then the coils, yeah, but
I don't think it was was it under the ice rink?
Yeah.
I don't,
Well, the community
I've
center
never-
warming house has.
what Excel spreadsheet was that in?
maybe it's in general six, maybe.
I mean, it's listed as numbers under capital project levy, but expenditures, it shows nothing. And it's the same scenario with the waterfront playground stuff. There's capital projects levy listed under it, but there's no expenditures.
Right, because we're saving for it.
Right, so it looks like that's what the Warman
Yeah,
House
so
situation is.
It
too.
is right here. It shows it right here in 2026, 200,000.
My cap shows nothing.
And
Community
are you on-
center
wait a minute,
warming
Denise,
room?
Are you on ice rink or are you on?
I'm on the summary of funds.
I think that's near.
Summary of funds. So now we go to ice rink, got it, a million.
Why is that?
On the ice rink, I see there's nothing in 26.
Yeah, I think it's either a typo or formula. Just as an error.
We had it in there this spring. Spring.
That comes to 1,000,004, and the summary you're looking at, for the summary, the line for the summary for the ice rink in 2027 is 1,000,004. That's what I showed, right?
Yes.
26 for the ice rink.
And we may not even
I
need
think
to
I'm
do that stuff
frozen.
in 27, depending on what happens.
And that matches the tab for the ice rink, which is 1,000,004.
Which has no warming cut.
So it does show it on Blad's sheet.
I think that's in here.
It's not an error, because it's in the one we worked on this spring.
Yeah, but, so
This is,
my understanding, Denise, when we did that was how we were gonna function for 25. Because there was stuff that was approved, the board approved, we sat down and said, let's revise that, and I know we looked at other years too, but that helps staff know, hey, we know the board approved in 2025, when we spent this, but we here at the committee level are revising this, so then we all went with that revised CIP that the committee did in January, or February, or whatever.
that's what this is.
But
Now,
now,
we talked about all kinds of other things. When I went through and we made tons of changes based on my recommendations to even out the CIP, because we were jumping all over. We were at 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.35. We were trying to even out the CIP over the next 4 or 5 years.
so you were showing 200,000 for the community center warming house in 26.
Yes,
And for what would we do?
saving money. We're not doing anything, we're starting the pot, the same as I think the playground
Didn't the
starts,
Friends group talk about fundraising for that as well? 'Cause I think
but that does,
In the future, not now.
and I'm sure that we would pay for some of it.
I show 100,000 for it in 26, this is warming house. And then, for capital projects levy, and then 200.
No, I'm just the opposite.
we only need enough for a match, because that's a CDBG eligible project. Because it is a community center.
But in what we got, in the attachment we got from Vlad, it's nowhere. I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I probably.
Well,
took
it's
that
on
out.
his computer.
Okay, but I'm just saying, when I open the attachment, it's not.
How about we just drop it to 100?
Yes.
Okay. So
Change.
here's what you're saying is, see, there's nothing there. There's a summary.
This is a summary file
Oh,
for.
sorry,
all of it.
for all those,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
so
the
I
big
need to go
files.
to your attachment, find ice rink.
Okay, then how much more do we have to cut, Denise?
No, then we're good.
Okay. So
We're
then-
actually a little bit better. We're just a little over 1 million.
Okay, so if we keep the things that Eric put in there, but then cut the 100,
Oh, I see.
reduce it to 100,000. More than
Sure.
100,000? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
Okay,
No,
so
we're
then if I
eliminating
go
the-
here.
2005 truck. It was
That's
in the
the-
CIP for 27. It goes back to 27. Okay. The robo mower is pushed to 27.
If that happens.
Okay, thank you.
And then warming house drops to 100,000. And that gets our CIP with all the other stuff. $90,000 less than it was, well, give or take.
But did you get those changes?
No.
Okay,
I-
so 100.
100 is 2026, right, Denise?
Yes, you and I will meet and go over everything. but you're gonna have, it's gonna take us hours.
But he sets 100,000 in 2026, right?
Instead of 200.
Yes.
So
So,
Bridget, we
so
just-
what are we saying the public works vehicles and equipment CIP will be in 26 and 27? What number are we agreeing to? After the math you guys were just doing.
It's being, well, the summary sheets, being reduced by 200,000.
Yeah, so for Bridget's sake, the 2005 truck replacement and parts goes to 27.
So that took out 75,000.
The
Yes.
robo mowers for 50,000 goes to 27.
Okay.
That didn't happen. And then the ice rink warming house is reduced from 200,000 to 100,000.
And again, there is, it's not on our papers. That would say,
It's
Gonna write it in.
with the email that Vlad sent us with all the attachments, I think there's 12 attachments. 11 or
it's
12
in one of
attachments.
those.
It's in
Okay,
one of those. If you open the attachment that says ice rink, it's in there.
all right. But it's not showing up on the CIP document that we have in the package on page 48. All right, I'm fine with that. And Denise, that keeps us flat, CIP flat with last year.
No, well, I haven't done.
For the parts, I'm sorry. I thought that was a math you were doing.
No, I was doing all the CAP, everything that we were levying, every project. We are reducing it from last year's CAP.
Okay,
Don't, I don't have a calculator, I'm not
okay,
doing it.
don't worry about it. Thank you.
What about the treatment plant?
I want to talk to utilities about all that.
The wastewater, the
Wastewater treatment plant.
2027 number.
I mean, that's not a tax levy thing necessarily anyway.
I was looking at the SIP for it, Bridget.
The 15 million,
Right, yeah.
it's gonna cost a lot of money.
Is that gonna be used for all of Northern Door? Or is just the survey? Do we know?
Depends on what the
Yes.
study says.
Because it's like if you're gonna build the whole thing.
That is the intent.
Yeah.
And Megan has been talking with the other local communities, Ephraim, Bailey's.
So they would partner with us on that build?
I don't know. It's very early stages.
Yeah.
But communication has been really good. They continue to meet every so often as.
This is the incinerator
Yes,
we're talking
more.
about?
It's the dry, the sludge, the sludge dryer.
Yeah, essentially it's an incinerator.
That's one.
It is?
Texas Sludge.
But we need it.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
I
they
think
got
they
Can't we
are
build it in another community?
How big is
I
that?
doubt
Even-
it.
I mean, is it big building?
I can only listen to one person at a time.
Yeah.
Bottom line, they're doing the study, we won't know more till it's done.
Which is a year maybe.
So I guess we'll just go over the 2027 capital levy next time. There, I mean,
I'm wondering if, make decisions. This is personnel, I'm shifting this for a second. But we did, make decisions and I think brought it, when Julie, we brought it to the board about 3%. I know that Mike had asked about the. I haven't got that yet, but that's.
Yeah, that's where we're, for budgeting purposes, what we're putting in there, but
Okay.
Denise said that she wants that to come back, so.
Okay.
I mean, it's
I
gonna
mean,
be,
I think it's
it'll be
less
close.
for, I think if utilities is happy when the finance would give it the nod.
Yeah.
See that it's not a levy issue.
Talk about that exciting tax bill insert.
Oh, yeah, I brought this to yours with me, but.
Well, I thought last year was in the past.
It is. Cross it. I can't remember if they found it.
I'm scrolling to get to the agenda item, I'm sorry. 6E, tax bill insert to revise. Well, obviously, I think that we should talk about Janelle and Janelle's retirement,
Yeah, because we talked about Bob Lang.
Heidi's resignation.
Yep.
Um,
I'd really like to encourage, I don't know, you keep asking and asking, but I'd sure still like to gather emails from our residents. Make communication faster and more efficient.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have sign-in sheets is to always get, you know.
Yeah. It'd be great to update that database.
I can't remember the number, but there was, in revenues, did we have just a specific dog license?
We do have a dog license.
I know we have a dog license, but I mean, was there a
A line
dollar
item for it?
amount in there just for dog licenses, Glenn?
There was a line item for it.
Licenses, but not necessarily for book licenses.
For dog licenses.
Oh, you mean just for dogs, not necessarily just for pets?
Well, we only have dog licenses. We don't have licenses. Because I think that there's an awful lot of people, for as many people that locals. What's the dollar amount?
$5.
No.
What?
Seven. And how much have we taken in? 100?
106.
It costs $5.
Yeah, not too many people have gotten a license.
We have 21 people, I think,
There's a lot
especially
more
if they're
dogs.
going to the dog park, where it says that you have to have a license.
It does.
I think we need to make that bigger. This is an issue.
It is state law.
Absolutely it is.
I know, but nowhere in the state, I mean, every community has this problem.
I know, but I'm just.
I mean, is this the biggest problem we have to solve?
Well, Mike, we're figuring out what to put in a tax insert.
Just
So
Reminding them, I think
Yeah.
that's great, telling them how much it is, encouraging them. I thought the letter is great. I don't know what should all be in there. I think it's great.
Well, this is
Encouraging them to
last
get
year,
a dog license, encouraging them to give us their emails, all of that stuff is great.
Anything new that we could, like, just new procedures, new whatever is always helpful. We
New
don't have to decide
hires.
that right now. Again, both Janelle and Heidi leaving, that's important.
Introducing the new people.
Yeah,
right.
that's a great
And
idea.
then just like you said.
Is somebody taking notes on all this, because I listened back.
I can do that.
So-
I can tell you what it is. Do we have the same animal control guy, is Mark Richards, the same
Yep.
person we're using?
Same guy.
All right. And then we would, for elected officials, Heidi, Sue would be, so I could go through what's here now
And
and make changes if we want to make just,
I think maybe an introduction about the new parks maintenance building. See that?
Do you have a date where they're gonna let people take a tour and?
yeah, I would say that would be fun to invite people in.
It'll be before this, but
It'll be before this, but invite them in for coffee and donuts or something.
we'll have an open house.
People would come for that.
Yeah, before we put anything in there.
Or we put anything in there.
Yeah, before it's outfitted.
Before you move all the park stuff into it.
Yes.
Like all the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Storage.
that's when the open house should be.
We'll have to do that really
where
quick.
it's fresh and clean.
Because they're chopping it together.
I know.
Well, is it gonna actually be done on the first?
Actually, we have our walkthrough, I think. What day is today, Monday, Wednesday?
Well, I mean, if we can let everybody know as soon as possible.
We have to go through and do the punch list to see, what needs touch-ups or not, and then they come back and do.
I think little kids would love seeing the equipment in there. So I wouldn't worry about whether it's filled or not filled.
I think we don't want anybody.
Getting hurt. Oh, yeah.
See, I thought the equipment would be in there so people can't come, because I think right now they walk in like, what do they need all this space? What do they need?
Yeah,
this
that'd
cat
be,
village,
that,
blah, blah,
that,
blah.
yeah, that'd be,
I ask you
a-
that all the time.
Have
with
we gone and
dogs.
see it?
Why do we need this giant building? Every single time I come.
yeah.
And I understand that that's a really good point. But you don't want unsupervised
Yeah.
people
You're right.
roaming around with all kinds.
Oh, yeah, it's like when
You
they
don't
come
wanna
to the
get hurt.
firehouse.
Yeah.
They come to the firehouse and, parents let their kids, all of a sudden I look at some kid, and he's up in the driver's, I'm like,
Yeah,
the parents are sitting right there. I'm like, excuse me.
no,
Yeah, anyway.
So we'll just let them complain.
No, but I would
Well-
let them know right away. What I would do is a press release. And I would send it to the Pulse, because if you put it in the Pulse, then people will know that it's happening and come and join us for coffee and, you know.
And you could have, use yellow tape or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and just have maybe some walking
Yeah.
area where you have to stay within that, you can't detour, go like touch and fitness or
Yeah.
whatever it
If the
is.
guys wouldn't mind, it would be great if the guys were there, because I think so many residents don't know. A lot of the parks people, and Eric as well,
Yeah,
the team, and know the work that they do, and know how well they take care of the village.
Yeah.
Rain or shine, snows, whatever, so if they could be there to just,
So we would do it similar to our breaking ground ceremony,
yeah,
but this one invite the public into tour.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so anything else?
Think about it, Badger books, we don't need to include that, do we?
No, that's
No,
already
that's
done.
done.
Okay, that's done. Annual report, that's not. Okay. Right, got
I mean, most of this we can go through and stuff, but I think the committee had wanted to see if there was some big thing you wanted to make sure was in there. Because we talked about letting the people know about the budget,
The
tax
budget meetings are
difference,
important, but this is going out with, this will be after the fact, right?
right? But we had talked about, so last year we wanted to refund money and all this other stuff, and we had talked about, giving them an update on the budget situation in the newsletter. I understand why the committee wanted to review this. Was it to say, hey, we know last year, taxes went up, but, hopefully you realize they went down 5%, or whatever, 0.5%, or whatever it is. I thought that's why we wanted to revisit this, to talk about finance.
yeah, I don't know,
I don't know.
let's make sure we get
No?
I'm
there.
not sure.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that either, but.
Maybe it was an off the cuff comment, maybe we were just
Yeah.
spitting at the wall. Throwing
Somebody-
spaghetti at the wall.
Somebody had said they wanted to put a note in here on why taxes had increased or
Yeah,
something like that. It
I thought we wrote a letter to all our taxpayers. We did.
that went in the paper.
That went in the.
No,
Oh,
it's
sorry.
expired.
Did
Sorry,
we?
put it
Did we
in.
get a letter?
Yeah, We did.
No, it went,
Yeah, it went,
no, it
yeah.
was too
It
expensive.
just went in the newspaper. But I'm with Bridget, I thought that's why we had talked about trying to get something in here, but okay. So Louise, you'll get us the changes
I
that
think
we
my
talked about.
comprehensive plan is done, so we don't want to do that, right?
Right, yep,
And Brett's still the building inspector?
yep.
Okay. All right, let me look through it, then I can bring it back to the next.
Some of it is building permits, everybody knows they need a building permit, I think that one kind
They
of.
do not know that, Julie.
They need a zoning permit is where they need to start. You go to building permit, he doesn't tell you you need zoning, you go to zoning, they tell you you have to have building, so you need a zoning permit is where you start.
Well, if you want to rewrite that.
Sign permits,
you can
sand
rewrite that.
doors.
What about
Oh, yeah,
fire?
maybe because we've had so many issues with sign permits, maybe absolutely that should be in
Or
there.
fireworks?
Fireworks and about not, you need a permit.
You need a
But
permit for
there was a
Reminder, you
huge
need
article,
permits for the phone.
there was a huge article last year,
On fireworks?
yeah, that you needed a permit.
People don't, I mean, it just want to, I'm not saying it's the right thing. And I'm also, I mean, people aren't supposed to bring their dogs to the park. There are dogs everywhere in the park, on leash, but they are in the park. I don't know what to, yeah, at the concerts. I worked at the
Yeah.
concert Wednesday night. They were nice little dogs, and they were cute, but they're not supposed to be, the fact there's signs everywhere.
I was reading something today, and Sue, you might know something about this. It was a 2023 Act, C 73, not sure, which says if you have any type of, like if you're a church and people have alcohol, but you're not selling it, or wedding barn and they have it, but they're not selling it, it'll even impact us, I think, to a certain degree. It said you still needed a license from the state.
Yes.
Effective January 1st. That's a big one. I think we need to let people know about. I wasn't aware of that. I was researching some stuff for the event.
What do you think this would pertain to?
A lot of people. So it was like,
They all have,
You have to give me an example, because I'm not
There
following
is-
why you think that's important.
There is one that just came up for a church.
all
And
churches.
Mr. Bay,
With alcohol, like
the,
a church picnic?
can't think of that, Peninsula something group, that they're having an event there at the church. It's a nonprofit. They are serving there. But if it's not for profit, whatever, they still need a permit to be able to do it
So
there.
the nonprofit is using that space?
Yes.
Or so another organization
Yes,
is using the church,
yes,
so one of them needs a license?
yes. So it would be the organization that's having the event.
And it applies to government too, if you have a place that this is happening at, so, you know, people wanna rent the village hall for a wedding and they wanna have some beer there or whatever, they can stay. The church is having a little
Oh,
get together,
from the state, not from the village, from the state?
it's from the state, now I don't know if that gets passed through to the village or not. We have
That,
a-
yeah, that
From the state?
I just read it, so I was researching the rules to have some,
Okay, we're getting off track.
Well, that-
It's another issue.
anyway, so if that's the
Yeah.
case, that is something I think is really important to let people know.
I think we should know the details of that before we put it in the newsletter. It sounds
course
like
we
you
will.
guys
We
are pretty
want-
confident, but
I wouldn't write it right now anyway,
Yeah.
so,
And the legislature just passed it.
no, wait, 23.
Yeah.
23.
I saw it today when I was working on the rules for Parks Committee.
All right, well, I'll bring the edits to this.
And Julie, you'll write the sign for that stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where.
Yeah.
Okay,
4:48 is their motion to adjourn.
yeah, could we find out when, we want to figure out when we're gonna meet again, or?
No.
Okay, all right.
but I would like to get that
So
date as
moved.
soon as possible so we can get it on our calendars.
So moved.
I think we should wait till we know for sure Vlad has it all in there.
I agree. I agree
Motion by
completely.
House and second by Bertle, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Hang in there. It's only been a year.
Denise, I wanted you to review a sign, but I didn't, she was, maybe was gonna try and get it to me by the time we met, and
Yeah,
I
know.
have not
We gotta
received
get
it
some
yet.
rules.
Terry Rogers is waiting to get a sign up there.
Well, Just make sure it's not at church.
I was just gonna say.